All right, and we are now live. Welcome everyone to another Stand Live for this Saturday morning here in, I would say, cloudy Southern California today because it's pretty cold. First things first, I see a lot of people are here in the chats so far. Go ahead and shout me out and let me know if the audio is working okay as usual. I want to make sure we start things right here. Ian already is in the house saying, "Thank God for Stan. Brutal morning without Dugras reports." Yes, Dugras did not have his typical Saturday morning live stream. I usually follow him, but I guess today he was unavailable. So I will be the one spearheading the live stream Saturday for the credit card community this morning. All right. And so next we have Mr. Dalton in the house. Good morning, Stan the Man. Good morning to you, Dalton. Hope you're doing well and happy Saturday to you. Anything in terms of the audio? I haven't seen anything about audio. It sounds like people can hear me, but I just want to make sure that things are good. So someone just shot me down in the chat being like, yes, I can hear you, Stan. You sound good, or you don't sound good. Either one of those things, as long as we got something going on. But I'll keep talking until I see that announcement. Son wins the house. Hi, Stan. Good morning, Son. I saw that I thank you for sharing your images of Starlux business class. It's one of those airlines that I really, really want to travel on, but I don't have an international trip in mind quite yet. And so I just have to just keep dreaming. I know I can obviously just take off some time and just book a trip, but like, I don't know. I got to go to work, so I can't really just do that. Okay, we got Kevin Winston's audio sounds good, so that's great. All right, so we're gonna keep going here. Robert J's the house. Good morning, Robert. Hey, got this yesterday as an attachment to an email from U.S. Bank. What do you think this $20,000 minimum is for? I don't know what you're referring to, but if you can drop it down in the chat, let me know because I can let you know what I think about it. Rodrigo Mendez in the house. Gotta enjoy my Saturday morning with some Stan credit card talk. Excellent. I think we have one of your questions actually in the community presentation coming up soon, so that'll be really fun to hear the answer to that one. My boy JP Knowledge is in the house. Good to see you, JP. Thank you for running your live stream the other day. It was definitely very informative about all the different things that I'm super unfamiliar with, which is best miles to redeem, how to redeem them in the best way, and basically which first class products and business class products are really things to look out for, and obviously the amount of changes in the current status and landscape of how to redeem those miles is always something that changes a lot, and so I'm glad you're on top of it because I would love to hear a summary, and that's exactly what you did, so thank you so much. Kevin, when you going to be busy next month? I sure am. I'm doing a lot of traveling. I have to work one Saturday. I also have some other family-related events, and so yes, will be busy that next month. So that's why I decided to do an extra live here in April as opposed to one in May. Because I don't have any time on a Saturday to do that. And for me, I'd like to do it on a weekday, but the issue for me is that I usually end work at 5 p.m., sometimes later than that if I run over. And so by that point, it's like 8, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And so it kind of gets a little bit later. And for that reason, I typically try not to do weekdays as my live streams. I choose weekends only, and Saturday seems to be the one that has stuck pretty well. So I hope to keep doing that in the future, but that just means that if I'm busy on the weekend, I just can't do it. So planning ahead's good, but you guys get to benefit today with a double feature from last week and this week with a live stream. Kirby G's in the house. Hello. Good to see you, Kirby. Thanks for stopping by. I know Reinvite is a 2% travel card better than a 5% cashback card in your opinion. So I would say 2% travel card is not better than 5% because 2 is less than 5. What I think what you're trying to relate to is a 2x travel card better than a 5% cashback card, being the X means you get miles or points or some kind of transferable currency. The issue with the 2x is that if you want to get an equivalent 5% cashback, you do have to have a higher cent per point value when you redeem your points. So it's both earning and redeeming. So the idea behind transferable currencies is that you can redeem them for higher point values than 1 cent per point. So in this situation, I think my math is correct. Maybe not. It's either 2.25 or 2.5 cent per point to make an equivalent 5% cashback for that redemption. So if you get a we'll say 2.5 just for sake of math, 2.5 center point or higher, then that would be worth it. But that's obviously very hard to find unless you're doing very specific first and business class redemptions. So sometimes it's just either you get a 5% cashback card because that way you just have that immediate value. You can spend cash instead and not have to worry about finding availability or finding the right redemption. Okay. James V says baseball white cap out. I think it's an emoji of some kind that doesn't show well on this chat, but that's cool. Audio is Gucci. All right. Thank you, Kirby. Everyone's saying audio is good. Thank you for that, for confirming. Leon Dre, good morning. Good morning to see you. Good to see you, Leon. Thanks for stopping by this live stream. Remember your comments from last live stream, so I appreciate that so much. Mike from LA says, Stan, the man brightening up a rainy Saturday. Yeah, I know. It's just, I don't know if it's raining over there in LA from you, but for me, it's just cloudy and cold, which is, again, for some reason, I was in Sacramento all last week. It was like nice and sunny. And then I come back here in Southern California and it's just raining. Again, I think it's just the weather follows me around and it's just a little unfortunate, but it's okay. We'll live. Chad Petty comes in the house. Howdy, all. Good to see you, Chad. Thanks for stopping by and for being a channel member. By the way, channel memberships are available if you'd like to join. I do weekly Walk with Stan videos, although I have to do my next one soon. And so those come out, and those are basically, for members only. And so definitely check those out if you want. And you can join the membership down below in the description box if you are on a desktop computer. Jared Troy says, morning, Stan. Good morning, Jared. Good to see you here. And Jay Change is in the house, the guy that made the challenge from last week. Good morning to you. Good to see you. And hope you guys are ready for another good challenge involving Alaska credit cards. I don't know if the Joker Speaks is in the house because Joker is a big Alaska fan. And so he would probably have a lot of good knowledge for this too. And also, I like to learn from you guys as well. So that's also there too. Robert J says, email itself is too long to send. Hope you got the image. I'm not sure. Let me see. Did you send me an email? I don't have an email from you, so I'm not sure. We'll kind of talk later offline, Robert, about that, okay? RemGB says, good morning, Stan. Nice to have back-to-back Stan live sessions. Allows me to catch this one as I missed last week. Oh, great. Yeah, I know you also left me a nice comment on the community post. We'll go over that too. It's a little bit lengthy, but we'll definitely kind of pare it down so that we can make sure we get the right answer for you and your individual question. I know Reinvite says, would the Hilton business card be good for gas purchases? If Hilton points are valued at 0.8 cents each, wouldn't that be like getting 4% cash back on gas? Could it also work as a catch-all card? Yeah, so the Hilton business card used to be a great catch-all card because it had the typical 15K FNC. That, of course, has now gone away, and now it's just a 5X card. I would say that it could be used as a good catch-all card. I think it shines when you start to go towards the limit or the cap of that 5X category. So if you're spending close to like $100,000 on that card in a calendar year, that's up to 500,000 points. That's, I would say that would make up for the FNC that's lost. I would say that if you wanted to use that spend somewhere else for like a welcome offer or some other kind of benefit on a different card, that may be more helpful. For example, the Hilton Surpass card for that 15K FNC may be another way to go. But if you want a simple Hilton card, it is an option. It's just not my favorite option. Although I would say if you want to get the card, that was a good time because I believe the welcome offer is almost over. It appears almost over. I think it's going to end on the 29th, which is about 3 days from now. And so it's a good offer right now. If you want to get it, why not give it a shot? See how you like it for a year and then kind of consider from there. Okay. We have Robert J, who gave us a super sticker. Thank you so much for that. Rob199 super sticker. I appreciate that. And thank you. All right. Let's see. Where are we here? Jay Chang says, thoughts on Southwest Priority Card versus United Explorer versus Quest after all the recent changes and more to come. So I would hold my thoughts on the Priority Card only because it is also having a change coming soon too in the second half of this year. At least that's what Southwest says. I think the Priority Card is the best Southwest card to get if you are thinking about continuing flying with Southwest, especially for the upcoming benefit of a most likely first check bag free benefit for you and probably like 8 other guests or something like that. I would say the United Explorer versus the Quest, those are good options. 2, I would say the Quest actually is better for the more frequent United flyer at this point because it has that $200 annual United credit on it now. There's a bunch of other nonsense credits on it, but you can like work through that yourself if you want to use those or not. But United Explorer is good if you're kind of like gently coming in. You want to have that first check bag free, have the priority boarding, have those 2 United Club passes, but you want to have that first year promotional annual fee at $0, which is also really cool too. So I think if you're just kind of generally going into United, I would just say you Explorer. But if you're going to be pretty consistent United, like maybe once or twice a month travel on United, that would be a Quest situation. But then if not, just United Explorer for maybe like a 1 or 2 off, type of flight with them. Southwest Priority, again, best one for them. It depends on which airline you obviously fly. Kevin Wynn says, now the Smartly card is a cap. Switch to B of A card with 2.65% unlimited. Yes, so if you do not have the version 1.0 of the Smartly card, definitely the unlimited cash is a good option. For those of us who still have the previous version before it got nerfed, US Bank Smartly card, it still works the way it has in the past. And so far, it's an uncapped 4% cashback card, but we'll see how long, that lasts, because likely the people that were going to use this card more than intended already have the card anyways. So I guess it's one way for US Bank to stop the bleeding, so to speak. But, if we're the ones that still have the card, then they may still have an issue unless they can, close out those accounts that are abusing the system. Joe Barreto's in the house. Hola, Stan. Waiting to get the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant pop-up gel as well. Yeah, I know. We discussed this, Joe. So first of all, thank you for talking and with me online about this Bonvoy Brilliant card. And I'm sorry you got into pop-up gel. But we have to see, how long it'll take to get you out of it. I don't remember exactly when that offer is expiring, but hopefully you can get in before it expires so that you can get those elevated 185K points, because that's a lot of points. And obviously I'm a big fan of the Brilliant card, especially if you are going to be staying there frequently for that Platinum Elite status. So we'll have to see, and, appreciate you being here. Chad Penninguff says, smash that like button, peeps. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you for the reminder. If you are getting value, which we haven't even started with the value yet, but please hit the like button if you're getting value from this. I like to start this live stream off just by taking some questions from the comments. But of course, we'll get into the big learning session soon with the presentation as usual. But I appreciate the reminder, Chad. Thank you so much. Kevin Wynn says, in the Bay Area, it's been raining yesterday, but today sunny so far. Oh, that's very nice. The Bay Area is super nice because when it's sunny, it's still kind of cool as well, so it's not super hot. Now, some days are going to be hot, but for the most part, because you're in the Bay, you have that like ocean weather. It's pretty nice, and it's got some pretty nice climate up there, especially in the summertime when it gets very, very hot down here, where I live. CJ Junkie says, good morning, Dr. Stan. Good morning to CJ. Thank you for stopping by. Okay. Robert J says, I gave us anyway data point. We'll just have to see what tricks US Bank is up to next. Yeah, I think if you're trying to send like an image through the chat, it's not going to work that way. You'd have to send an image like through like email or something. David Williams in the house. Good morning, Stan. Good morning, David. Good to see you. Catch 360 or 631, excuse me. Almost done running errands, but we'll jump in to watch when I get home. The playback. Love the video, sir. Of course, Catch. Thank you so much. And we have your question coming up soon in the presentation as well. Kevin Wynn asks, are you are getting the new Alaska Airlines credit card premium? I think you're going to switch on words. Are you getting the new premium Alaska Airlines credit card? I don't know yet because I want to see what it looks like. That 3x multiplier on foreign transactions is pretty appealing, but I don't really travel that much internationally, so it may not work out in my situation. But for those of you who live like abroad or you travel very often internationally, that could be a really nice addition to get a lot of Alaska points on a very simple card, just one card, which is really, really nice. We'll see what it includes. For me, I think the thing that I'm looking the most for is what kind of companion pass is coming on that Alaska Premium card. What kind of availability does it have on the different international airlines, like the One World Alliance partners? And can I use it for international flights in a easier way? And is it hard to get the companion pass also? Because as you know, the other Alaska cards have that $6,000 spending requirement to even get it at this point. So that may also let me know if I need to, or if I want to get that card or not. So we'll see. CJ says, how can you tackle the Marriott credit card right now with these types of welcome offers from Amex and Chase, particularly Marriott, Business, Brilliant, and Boundless? I mean, I would just say just use the same strategy that I had put out before with the old strategy and the new strategy. Old strategy being a lot more safer, where you start with Chase first, get the Boundless wait, and then you get the Brilliant and Business 2 years later, and then after that, get the Boundless card again after you've product changed that first Boundless to a Ritz card. it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for welcome offers, there's really no rush. They'll always come back with another one. For the Brilliant, that one is going on right now. So if you want to start with that one, you can. You get that platinum elite status a lot easier, a lot faster, and can benefit from that sooner. But I would just say, look at what look at what you want from your Marriott stays, and then choose a credit card appropriately from that situation. JP Knowledge says, you may have answered this in a previous live, but are the changes to Southwest affecting your loyalty to them, or do the changes help you because you fly with them so much? So I think the answer is both of them, no and yes. So it doesn't affect my loyalty to Southwest because I don't really have loyalty to Southwest. I'm very airline agnostic. The reason why I fly so much Southwest is because there's no competition on the route that I take, which is Ontario to Sacramento. There's ways to get there that are like with connecting flights with other airlines, but Southwest is the only one that gives you a nonstop flight. If there was any other airline, like literally any other airline that did that route, I would take that airline instead. I'm not like tied to Southwest. It's just for the sake of it's easiest to go nonstop for me, and that's the way it is. So that's the first question. Do the changes help you because you fly? I think it will help me because I do have to stay with them just by the force of nature. It will help me in the sense that I will be able to select my own seat in the front of the plane and not have to like do this boarding stuff. Not that it ever was a big deal in the first place because I'm always in the front just because I'm A-list preferred. So I'm usually between A16 and A25. It's kind of like where I generally fall in every single flight. But it's nice to be able to choose the seat that you want, and hopefully the extra legroom is actually extra legroom because right now it's pretty good, but having more obviously is better, and so that'll be really good. That actually reminds me of something that happened to me the other day because I wanted to touch on you. And maybe JP, you have an opinion on this. So I'm going to be flying American Airlines for the first time this year in a couple of weeks from now. And I actually booked that with points, with miles. I don't remember how many miles or what the cent per point was. It was like average. It wasn't good or bad, but it's a domestic American Airlines flight. And I used my Bilt points that transferred to American Airlines from like last summer to book that flight like a long time ago. So I booked that flight for like now, which is now coming up in the next couple of weeks. I got this offer to upgrade that flight to first class. Now, of course, this American flight is a domestic flight. It's the A321, so it's not a lie flat seat, but it is a bigger seat. So just typical American Airlines first class. And so I got an offer to upgrade to first class, and it was about $450 per person per seat. And so my wife and I are both going on this flight. And so it's about $900 total. I checked like the website, and it said that right now it was retailing for $1,100 per seat for first class, so that'd be $2,200 for both of us. So I thought to myself, well, I could save $900, or I could have this first class experience for like half the price of what it would usually cost. So I ended up actually upgrading to that seat, to the first class seat. And the reasoning I had was because I fly economy in like the Southwest Greyhound bus my entire life. I might as well just like experience first class in like another airline just because I can. It's the only American flight I believe I have so far booked this year, and so I actually ended up purchasing that for $900 for myself and my wife. I don't know if that's like a good purchase or not. I don't know how people think about that, but let me know in the comments if you were in my situation. Would you have done that, or would you have just like said nope, economy for the American Airlines miles and just like that's it? Even though there could be like a little bit of a discount if I went to first class, and by discount you mean you're paying money, but it's still paying money for extra seats. So just curious to see what you guys thought about that. Last question says, so I know Reinvite says, last question, why not maximize 5% cash back, cash it out, and invest into the S&P 500 instead of using rewards for travel? Wouldn't that lead to a better ROI? Well, it would lead to a better ROI unless you invest the S&P 500 before the tariffs went into place, because if you did that, then you would have been doing really bad. The issue with investing S&P is that, yes, it does go up over time, but it's going to go up in a very slow fashion, right? And so it's not really meant to like put it in, take it out, put it in, take it out. The idea is to put it into like a savings account that gives you some APY or what have you. I would just say that it depends on how the market does. You could like obviously, go into GameStop and have it go to the moon, then that's going to be great, right? But you just don't know with stocks and these things. So I would just say, just kind of use 5% cash back for its intended purpose, and then use the points as its intended purpose as well, and you will be able to figure out in a easier way what's a better ROI for you, with more of a way to figure that out, as opposed to trying to time the market or trying to get the market to go up when you're trying to do your travel. Okay. Thank you so much for those questions. Joe Bruno says, hit that like button, mi gente. Thank you so much for the reminder. Joe, again, if you are getting value from this, please hit the like button as well. I'm going to go down to here, see if anything is going on. Right. So I'm just trying to figure out if I had any comments about that American Airlines question I had from before. Ian says, if I made as much money as you, I'd do the upgrade, but for me personally, I would never pay that for domestic first class. That's fair. I mean, it's more of a, I travel so much in the economy. I just felt that, just for this one time, let's do it and just see how it's like. Because I've never actually traveled in domestic first class in American Airlines before, and so I just wanted to try it out. It was probably fun. And then Ian said, I'd also rather use Alaska miles instead of American miles. Yeah, so when I actually transferred the miles from Bilt, I don't believe we knew about Alaska just yet. We just knew that American Airlines was going to go away. And so I was like, well, I'm going to take all my Bilt points and transfer over to American Airlines, and then we'll use it for some flight in the future. And then one came up, and I was able to redeem that. And then New Again is here. Bro, I've been preferring AA2 and spending down my AA points in 2025. Spoiler, deval coming. I expect AA to be worth about 1.5 at end of 2026 and in line with the rest of the market in 2027. I would hope the answer is no, but I would, I can see that happening just because, there's devaluations coming everywhere. It's the way it is. JP Null says, what's the route and how long is the flight? The route is LAX to Orlando, and the flight is about 5 hours. So, it's a coast-to-coast flight. All right. Kirby C says, spoil yourself, Stan. Yeah, I have to spoil myself because I, travel so much. It's one of those things. Okay, so let me see if I can go back and cover some more questions that I may have missed here. Joe Barreto with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. You are the man. Thank you for that super chat. Joe, sorry for taking so long to see that. Also, DP David Palmer's in the house. Thank you so much for that super chat as well for $5. I really appreciate the super chats. It means so much to me that you guys are here and spending this kind of gloomy Saturday morning, at least here in Southern California with me. And we're ready to almost get into our main event, which is going to be our questions from the community post. I do want to continue on if I have not missed anything quite yet. Let's see here. Right. Kevin Wynn says the Surpass gives up to 1 FNC and Aspire gives to 3 FNC. Yep, it depends how you spend it on the card. Surpass with the 15K and Aspire with the annual. I think there's one with spending requirements too. I think it's 30K and 60K. Resner says, which airline card is worth getting if you travel 5x in US and 1 to 2 times international? That's a very broad question. I would just say it depends on where you're located in the United States first, and then you would see which routes you would take second, and then you would say, okay, based on where I'm located, what routes I'm going to take, what is the flights that I think I would be able to book, and then which airline alliance would be the best for me for those international flights based on those previous 2 questions. All right. JC Chain says, thanks again, Stan. Great. Okay. New Again says, what's up, everyone? Man, this game is really winding down, and better use Smartly 1.0 while you can. USB putting the writing on the wall that they're coming for it. Oh, of course they are. I mean, we just have to hope for the best. But, if you have Bank of America, you should be pretty good. Paro Nico says, I opened my 5th and 6th non-charge Amex card this week. 8 new Amex cards in the last 11 months. Email offer got me through pop-up jail for brilliant. Yes, if you can find an email offer or some kind of target offer, that would get you through pop-up jail. There are sometimes these, I don't want to say public, but there's shared referral links that have no lifetime language. I haven't really seen one for a Bonvoy Brilliant specifically, but that's something to look out for as well. So keep an eye out for that. Juan Mnemix in the house. Hello, good to see you. Too Easy. Hello, sir. Good to see you as well. Okay. And Professor X is in the house. Saying, great to see you again. Good to see you, Professor X. Thank you for stopping by this morning. And my boy, Chad Money Minutes in the house. Thank you so much for stopping by, Chad, and enjoying your Saturday and with us. And definitely great to have you here, sir. Okay. So I think at this point, we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So I'm going to add that to the screen here. So I apologize for the date. I forgot to change the date to 26, but it is the new actual live presentation. And so let's get started with our credit card challenge. One of my favorite parts of this live stream is the credit card challenge, where you guys asked me to do a challenge of to build a setup from a certain criteria. This one, the criteria is not as detailed as the ones that are previous, but I would say that it's still a good thought exercise because obviously we all love Alaska Airlines, and the challenge is to build a setup focused on Alaska Airlines. And so we're going to go ahead and do that first. So there's a couple things we want to look at when we build a setup specifically for an airline like Alaska Airlines. And my boy, Luke Points and Miles is here in the house. Stand the man. Hey, Luke, good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for joining us here on this Saturday afternoon for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. The reason why Alaska is so helpful, and I had this slide on the last live stream too, but I think it's a very powerful slide, is that Alaska can transfer to oneworld as they're part of the One World Alliance, and they also can transfer to Starlux for me personally, which is a nice thing. Now, I know that I talked to you, JP, in your live stream, and you talked about how it's really hard to get Starlux redemptions now from Alaska, which is super unfortunate. But hopefully they have more availability soon. The option is still there, like you said, but it's just very, very hard to find availability. And so you have to probably find, you said, I think maybe 2 to 4 weeks from the flight started. And so, again, still, Alaska miles are very valuable, and they still can go to One World Partners for whatever redemption you want. So if you still want to go to Taiwan, for example, there's still Cathay Pacific as an option for you, that's like Hong Kong, sorry. There's still Cathay Pacific as an option too. Okay, so the criteria here, or the strategy here, is with Alaska in this point in time, there's 2 ways to go about building up a credit card setup. There's the short-term version, and then there's the long-term version. The short-term version is where you take advantage of the fact that the American Express ecosystem can still transfer to Hawaiian to Alaska. And so because of that, you can earn Alaska miles by getting Hawaiian miles or American Express membership rewards points. And so by getting those cards through welcome offers, you can actually get a lot of Alaska points really, really quickly and then transfer those points into the Alaska system. And so that's the short-term strategy where you would just bang out those cards as fast as you can and then just get those points into Alaska program, and then that's going to be the way you make your strategy. The second way to do this is to do a long-term setup, right? And so that's what we would call like a core setup. And so when you have a long-term setup, you want to get cards that earn Alaska miles. So there's not that many right now, but there are some that we can talk about. And there's also cards that transfer to Alaska. Again, we're looking for things like the Alaska, Hawaiian, Alaska situation where you can go from one to the other. So starting with the short-term version, if you look at welcome offers, these are the cards that you would think about doing. So you'd have the MX green card, gold card, and platinum. Obviously, you want to go in that order because of the family language. As you go up higher in higher up the tiers, you're gonna have a higher spend requirement, but you have a higher amount of MR points coming in, and so that's how you would go about going through the personal side for the Amex MR points. The second thing would be business cards too. Those have the higher welcome offers, and those do not have family language, so you can go in any order you want. Starting with the platinum, which has the highest, 275, 250, 300K MR points for $20,000 in spend or something like that in 3 months, I believe. There's a business gold card as well as the blue business plus. Those all have really good welcome offers that you can earn a lot of MR points, and then you can go ahead and transfer from 1 MR points to Hawaii and then to Alaska. And then after that, you would say, well, if you want to get Hawaiian miles, there are these 2 cards, the Hawaiian Airlines personal card from Barclays, and then the Hawaiian Airlines card from Barclays, which it says Bank of Hawaii, which I'm not entirely sure because I don't know. I've never applied for this card before, but I believe it's still through Barclays, but for whatever reason, it's branded under Bank of Hawaii. But those are 2 separate cards you can get. I believe it's 60,000 miles per welcome offer, depending on if there's a welcome offer, elevated welcome offer or not. But those are another way to get into the Hawaiian system to get those points into Alaska. So you can pick your poison, see which one you want to get, or get a bunch of them if you want to, and see if that would get you the points or the miles you need for the Alaska program. And that would be a way to create a setup for it. Now, it's not like the typical setup you'd think of, but it's basically a setup based upon welcome offers. And so that's the first step. The more interesting way to do this, though, is the long-term setup, where we look at possible cards to build into a setup for Alaska Miles specifically. And so these are the possible cards, the 3-1 that exists right now for Alaska Miles. So as we all know, the built card does transfer to Alaska at a 1-to-1 ratio. And so that's something to know. Josh Ng also points out that he thinks both Bank of Hawaii and Barclays issue Hawaiian credit cards. So I don't know if they're separate, but that may be the reason why I was confused. Ian also says that they are both from Barclays, but they are 2 different products. You can apply for both in the same day. Just have to recon the second card since it will originally get flagged as a duplicate app. I see. So it sounds like it's still just 2 cards, but the Barclays card is the actual issuer. Okay, so back to this particular setup. The built card does transfer to Alaska, 1-to-1 ratio. They have, as you know, 3x dining, 2x travel, 1x on rent. That's interesting. We can also talk about that too, because Alaska, the personal card, also has that version at 3x, but with a transaction fee. Also, I would say if you were building a Alaska-based setup, because Built is the only transferable currency that goes to Alaska, I would place more emphasis on the Built program or programs that they offer. So, for example, they have the silver, gold, and like the platinum or whatever the tiers are. And so doing that spend on the card may be worth it to get those possible transfer bonuses to Alaska when they come up. There's also the ways to get increased points when you spend. So there's like neighborhood dining, there's fitness classes, there's like the Lyft partnership. I think it's built with Lyft. I think so. There's a lot of different ways to like spend on the card in a certain way to get elevated multipliers. And so I'm not going to go through all of them, but the Built program is one you would look into to do that. And in this situation, and I'm, as you know, not a huge fan of the Built card, just because it's, the way that they're kind of going. But, in this situation with Alaska and trying to get a card with transferable currencies for Alaska, I think understanding and implementing a strategy to maximize the Built program would make sense in this situation, because Alaska, again, is the only program that transfers to Alaska is going to be the Built program. Okay. In terms of Alaska cards, there are 2 options. There is going to be from Bank of America. There's a Bank of America personal Alaska card as well as the business Alaska card. They're, for the most part, pretty identical. I even think they have the same annual fee as well. I believe it's $99 or something like that. But they get 3x back on Alaska, 2x on gas and EV charging, and then 2x on transit. The difference with the 2 cards is that the Alaska business card gets 2x on shipping, whereas the personal card gets you 2x on cable and streaming. And so that's what I would look for in terms of multipliers. So if you do a lot of shipping, this would be an option. Although I would say that probably a better option would be like the Ink Preferred. But again, if you're looking for Alaska cards, this would be a way to do that. And so when I would break down the category of popular categories you typically think of when you're spending on a card, this is how I would break it down into what I would do. So first of all, we talked about the rent for the Built card. Now, they do have that program where if you have a Bank of America personal Alaska card, you can pay rent through Built with the Alaska card, get 3x miles back on Alaska. You just have to make sure that you understand that you pay that with a transaction fee. I think it's 3%. And so if you're okay with that, then that's another way to get a lot of Alaska miles very quickly. But if you're not, then the Built 1x is another option, although I would say that probably looking at both options, the Alaska card is better to do that. For groceries, it's always a weird category. Right now, there is no better card for groceries than the PayPal debit card. That card is like a monster card. There is the Citi Custom Cash. It's the only reason why I use Citi Custom Cash is if you wanted to earn thank you points instead of cash back. Again, the thank you points are still really good. It's 5x and 5%, so obviously those are better. So if you want to do that for groceries, that's going to be a better option. But in every other situation, the PayPal debit card is the way to go for groceries. And it even, again, also gets you into Target, Walmart, and Costco, which is not something that the Custom Cash can do, especially for, if it's for groceries, you can't do it for, I believe, for any of those 3 things. So that's another thing to think about too. So in terms of dining, I would say the Built MasterCard would be the way to go for that, because you get 3x, which is the highest one of all 3, and you can transfer those points to Alaska Airlines. Travel at 2x for Built MasterCard. There's a transit on B of A, and I want to just briefly touch base on that. So you can see that there's a 2x transit category on the Alaska card, so that would count for that, and then 2x travel on the Built card, so that's how I got into there. There's a 2x gas category on the B of A Alaska card. And then the catch-all is also interesting because I think, like I mentioned before, you want to focus on the built program to get to those higher tiers for the purposes of having a potential transfer bonus opportunity with Alaska, because then you could really get a lot more points for what you are getting. You just have to wait it out. But because you have the Alaska card and you have to meet this $6,000 requirement to get the companion pass, I would just say use the Alaska card for the catch-all first. Not all catch-all, just as much up to $6,000. Then after you have done that, you can just switch out and use the Built MasterCard, and then that could be the catch-all. That's not the best catch-all. We want to have like 2% at least, or some other higher number for catch-all. But if we're trying to focus on just Alaska miles, this is what I would think that you would do. This is how I would recommend doing that. So that would be the recommended setup, kind of in kind of a different format. So you can see that there's 3 cards to it. There's the Built card, the Alaska Airlines personal card, and then you have the PayPal MasterCard to cover all of those popular categories and start earning very quickly a lot of Alaska miles. So moving on to that, we also have to remember that the Alaska Premium Card is coming out, and that website is still on the up on the internet, and you can see that it's still slated to land summer 2025, and that's coming up fast. I mean, the official start of summer, if you want to be technical about it, is June 21st, I believe, and it runs till September 21st. So we're getting to those months now, because it's almost May, where you may start hearing more about this premium card. Right now, all we know about is that it gets 3x on, dining, 3x on possible, all eligible, whatever that means, foreign purchases. And then it's going to obviously have other premium travel stuff on it too. So we have to figure out if that's going to be a good addition to this Alaska setup or not, because it may be depending on the multipliers and the benefits on the card too. So that's something to think about. And we also want to know that Built is going to make changes to their card, quote, later this year. We don't know when that's going to happen. We know that mortgages are coming later this year, so that's going to definitely change the card too. So I don't think it's going to change the transferable currency aspect of Alaska. I think it's going to be the same, and I hopefully stay the same at 1-to-1 transfer ratio. But they'll change the multipliers to this card, and also maybe the annual fee, or maybe they'll separate this card to a different card. There's 2 different Built cards. We don't know what the situation is going to be yet, and so we have to look at the changes to later this year. So we really don't know what the best Alaska setup is going to be quite yet. But what's really exciting is that these changes are coming up in the next, I would say, 6 months or so. So we're going to be able to find out very, very quickly and make some hopefully really incredible new strategies for the Alaska program using these 2 cards based on how they layer them. What I just realized without, by kind of going through this exercise for this live stream is that Built is in a very interesting position because they are the only transit partner to Alaska. Bank of America probably had the opportunity to do it, but they just didn't take it. So Built just took it from them, which is fine because now we have one. But, Built can really use this to their advantage if they want to, have, I don't know if they want to have us as a community with their cards because we tend to be the ones that don't make them any money. But I would just say that they have an opportunity to make a really good impression by really targeting the Alaska program really well with their incentives, with their benefits, because they are the only ones that can offer that to all of us. So that's cool. Journey for Points says, if the Alaska Premium had elevated earnings with Built, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know if they have had in the past, but they have. For example, they have, they had Air Canada, they've had Air France, they're having Southwest coming up next month. So they choose airlines. I don't know what the process behind that is, but it would stand to reason that Alaska would be another way for them to, another airline for them to elevate their point transfer bonuses. And that would be incredible. I mean, I don't know. I probably would take advantage of that too, just if it even happened. Elman Gaming says, Built for suckers. Well, we'll see. I always like to keep an open mind. Right now I have the card. I like the card. I earn rent points from the card, so I don't think that's a problem. It's just a matter of, what they plan on doing with it. Are they going to make it better? Or are they going to make it worse? And that's going to mean different things to different people, but we're going to have to see. Kirby says Built is so overhated. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean it's a very polarizing card. It's a new card that everyone loves to hate, just like the Platinum card. Ian says, personally, I would stay away from Alaska miles. I already regret the 400K that I have over there. They're only going to be worth less over time. Best to stay with transferable, big deval coming. Yeah, I mean, it's always doom and gloom until it happens. And so I would say just take advantage of it while you can. For me, as a West Coast person, I think if I were to change airlines from Southwest, Alaska would be the next best bet. I've actually looked at Alaska flights to go to Sacramento, and I can't do it, but I'll fly to either Seattle or Portland first, which is, I'm not, it's kind of dumb to do that. But, I could do that if I wanted to really like change into different airline. That way I could earn probably a lot of status with Alaska, and that would be nice. And so I think it's a good airline. But again, like all airlines, devals will be coming, and so we just have to just use it while we can. Josh Eng says, what if Bilt ends up going with B of A if Wells Fargo dumps them? I don't know if that's going to be a thing. Bank of America tends to be kind of old school and not try anything new. They basically, the last new thing they did was make the PR Elite card. I believe that was in 2022. And that wasn't really that different from the PR card. So the multiple was the same, and they added some stuff which was fine at the time, but similar to the CSR and like the Platinum card. And so they haven't really been an innovative company, which is, I generally like to say innovation is good, but Bank of America, they know who they are. They like have great products, and their credit cards are money if you can, get to that platinum honors tier of their program. And so, I think they know where that. I don't know if they're really looking to jump into the transferable currency game. I think Bank of America and U.S. Bank are kind of in their own zone, and then you have the other banks that have their own like situation going on with transferable currencies. T. Sanderson says, I might have missed it, but I have the Bilt card already, but was wondering if you think it's worth using $6K for the Companion Pass strictly on rent. I don't know. It depends if you're going to use a Companion Pass. I would say that if you're going to use the miles, it would be worth it. 3X versus 1X is kind of a big differential, and depending on the size of the rent, that's going to dictate the size of your transfer fee too, or the transaction fee. So it has to, you have to do the math for yourself and see if it's worth it for you. I would just say it's only $6,000. So if you want to do it like a couple times, I would say just do it and get the Companion Pass. And as long as you have an idea of when to use it, that would be fine. Okay. Let's see. Newgan says Alaska already started slight stealth devals. Yeah, I mean, again, there's going to be devaluations all the time. And so that's kind of where we're at with all the airline programs. And unfortunately, we just have to use the airline miles while we can, use the U.S. Bank Smartly card when we can, just use the cards as they're good before they become not good. So that was the challenge. So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have an idea for a future challenge, just let me know. Send me an email, send me a message through my website. I would just say that these are really great learning opportunities for all of us. And so I appreciate all the challenges that you guys have definitely submitted to me. So let's go ahead, and if you have a challenge for the next time I do a live, which will probably late June, so not for another couple of months, definitely send it over to me, and I'll be happy to feature it on the live stream for the next time I do this. Okay, so we're going to keep going with the sections here. So the next section is called Credit Card Rapid Fire, because there was a bunch of questions I got on this community post, and actually there were more questions this time than last time, which I think is really cool. So I just wanted to cover them very, very quickly. And so this section is called Credit Card Rapid Fire, where we just kind of cover a bunch of different topics related to credit cards, and we're going to go and start right about now. Starting from my hermano, my brother, Cesar Joel. He has two questions for me. The first is the next card you want to get and why. And then he also asked the cards you plan to cancel and why, and to keep up the great work. So those are two great questions. And so I did touch on that a little bit, I don't think before, but I definitely have two options here. And so the next card I want to get is the Hilton Surpass card. And the reason for that is twofold. The first is I think it's a great sub card in terms of it subs into a welcome offer card if you don't have a welcome offer to obtain. And the reason why I say that is because you can have as you guys know, a $15,000 FNC if you spend that $15K in a calendar year. You get that uncapped Hilton free lunch certificate. That's the first thing. And what's nice about spending on this card is that you do have elevated multipliers in everyday categories in the U.S. So 6x U.S. groceries, 6x U.S. dining, and U.S., I believe it's U.S. gas as well. you also get that 12x on the Hilton purchases. And another thing is also the Hilton Gold status. So for me, right now my Hilton Gold status is being propped up by the Platinum card. But if I ever want to get rid of that card for whatever reason, I would need a substitute card to hold it. And for me, that would end up being, excuse me, some piece of dust went on my microphone. The Hilton Gold status would be covered by Hilton Surpass or a business, but the business card is just not as good as a Surpass. So my preference would be for the Surpass card. So that's what I want to do. Now, this is a great time to get a Surpass card because you have that elevated offer, which we all look for every single year, which is to get the 130K plus the Hilton FNC when you spend that $3,000 in, I believe it's 3 months or 6 months. And so that's going on now, ending in about 3 days from now. So I would normally get this, but the sad thing is that I'm trying to guard my report for a mortgage, and so I want to not add any more new accounts to my report, and so I can't really get this now. I'll have to wait till next year to kind of get this card. So it is what it is. It's always going to be there. It's always going to come back, so I'm not worried. I just have to wait some more time to figure it out, just in my certain situation. So the second question actually goes into the first a little bit. And, I have this American Express Blue Cash Everyday card. And it's my first Amex card. It started out as the Amex Blue card before any of this stuff came about. But this card is the oldest credit card with 20 years of credit history. The issue that I'm having with this card right now is, first of all, I don't use it for really anything. That's kind of the first thing. But the second thing is that I have 5 cards or 5 Amex credit cards right now. And so I know that some people are allowed to have more credit cards or they have more. Some people have less than that. But I know for myself, I max out at 5 credit cards. That tends to be what I hear a lot through data points about what everyone's maximum credit card limit is with American Express. And so the 5 I have are here. I did get the Hilton Honors card last year, so that's below its 12-month mark, so I can't cancel that card. But I want to make room for another Amex credit card, like I said before, the Hilton Surpass card. So because of that, I have 5 of these cards, and the only one that I think I want to cancel or have any possibility of canceling is going to be the, Blue Cash Everyday, because I have the Blue Business Plus. I want to keep that card for one. It is my anchor card for all my MR points. So all I have right now is the Platinum and the Blue Business Plus. If I cancel the Platinum card, I have the BBP to keep my MR points alive. So I want that card. It's also my main card for this YouTube channel. So it's all my business spend goes on this card. So I definitely use this card a fair amount too. So that's important. So I can't get rid of that card. I have the Bonvoy Brilliant and the Bonvoy Business, and I use those 2 cards to get those 85K and 35K FNCs. And so I want to keep those cards around too. Plus, I also get the Platinum Lead status from the Brilliant card as well. And so I don't really want to cancel those cards either because I do use those FNCs for some good value, and I like having them come every year. So that's fine. The Hilton Honors card, I could cancel this card later on, but then it's only giving me one room to keep going up the Hilton credit card ladder because the only one I have is a Hilton Honors card, and then I have the Surpass Aspire next, and also the business. So it'd be nice to have 2 slots to work this Hilton credit card ladder. And so the Amex BC is actually the one that's getting in the way more than helping me, at least what I think it is. I know that if I cancel the card, I'll have the credit history on it for the next 10 years on my report, so it shouldn't drop that much. But it's still one of those things where I don't know if I want to cancel this card. It gives a really nice boost to my average age of accounts, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. Robert J says, weird we have the same oldest card. Probably not common. Yeah, it's probably not common because the Amex Blue card and like those like older cards with the little blue like design with the little halo. I don't know, halo. It's like a reflective design. Yeah, that was a very popular card, but then all those cards became into the Blue Cash Everyday. Josh Ing says, I didn't know that business cards also count towards that limit. Yes, it certainly does. So if you have a limit, business credit cards do count. It's only credit cards versus charge cards. So, and they don't call it charge cards anymore. They call it like pay over time cards, but they're really just charge cards. And so you can have 8 to 10 pay over time cards as a limit, which is totally separate. But for credit card, it is actually 5 for most people, including myself. Chad says, I believe you can use an Amex checking or personal for business as an anchor. Oh, yeah, I mean, that may be possible. I have to look into that more, but for me, Business Plus is a card that I want to keep anyways, so it's one of those things where I just can't get rid of that card. All right, and then so that's kind of my situation. And so now that you've heard my situation, I actually do want to ask for your help because I want to know what you would do in my situation. So the first one of the three polls today is going to be that specific question. So here's the actual QR code and the code to join the polling as we do in all of our certain live streams here. So enter the code down here on the bottom, and we'll go ahead and switch over the screen in a moment to the actual polling software, where we're going to ask you, if you were me in my situation, would you cancel your oldest credit card? So I'm going to make sure I'm in here. Okay, good. And so I'll add this question to the stage here. And then you can go ahead and press the like button to let me know you're here. I'll leave this banner up in case you join later, you don't know what the code is. Use that code on menti.com to join the voting. And so again, would you cancel your oldest credit card in this situation if you were me? So on the count of three, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and here is the poll. So what would you do? Would you cancel it? Yes or no? If you wanted to go for the Hilton credit card ladder, but there was some card in the way, like the Blue Cash Everyday, would you cancel that card? And so right now it looks like it's fairly even, a little more towards yes, a little less towards no. If you have a certain opinion on this, definitely leave it down in the chat so I know what's going on. How old is your second oldest card is what New Again says. So the second oldest card is actually 18 years old. So I have a 20, 18, 16, 14, and a 10. So I have a number of them, but I have way more because we obviously apply for more credit cards, just in general. There's way more like newer cards and older cards, but so it's really hard to get older cards these days. King Sam says, I canceled my oldest card, no issues. Well, that's good. Jokic says, yes, cancel that sucker. Okay, fair enough. Kirby G, once you get the house, credit score means a lot less. Wouldn't mind the hit. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking too, is that, maybe I'm just being too, I guess, cautious. I think maybe I should just do it. I'm not going to apply for a mortgage in the next 2 or 3 months anyway, so if there is a small hit or anything, I'd see it right away and kind of adjust fire as appropriate. But it looks like for the most part, people say yes, that you would cancel your oldest card. And so I appreciate that. But now that you are linked here on the poll, any future polls that we do is going to, you'll be able to get in right away without having to enter the code again. Dom King's in the house. Dom Kim, good to see you. What I found interesting was I could vote no, but then I thought about canceling my oldest card of 29 years and had to pause. Yeah, it's like one of those things, right? You have an old card and you're like, should I cancel it? Should I not cancel it? It's just one of those things where, it's just hard to just do, even though in your mind, logically, it makes sense to just cancel it and move on because you have other cards to kind of prop up that credit average age of accounts. So I think I'm probably going to go ahead and cancel that card eventually. I may even do it to get this Hilton business card while it's still got that elevated welcome offer. Who knows? So we'll kind of hold on that. But thank you for your feedback, and I appreciate that. We're going to move on to the next question, though. So let's do that. The next question comes from Catch631, who was in the house a little bit earlier. Other than that US Bank Cash Plus card, is there another card you would recommend for utilities? I currently use my Venture X to get 2x back, but was wondering if there are other / better options other than the Cash Plus. So just to let everyone know what he's talking about, the Cash Plus is a great credit card. $0 gets you 5% cash back on your first $2,000 in combined eligible purchases each quarter on 2 choice categories, one of them being home utilities. And so it's really nice because the Cash Plus card has a lot of these esoteric choice categories that you don't typically see on the 5% cards, like not the typical restaurant, travel, groceries. It's almost like subsets of those categories. And so one of them is home utilities, which is very unique to Cash Plus. And so the question is there any other cards that could do something equivalent or better? And so for me, I looked around. I know that the US Bank Cash Plus is from obviously Elan Financial. And so Elan Financial has these cards called the Max Cash Preferred cards that are basically US Bank Cash Plus card equivalents. They're not necessarily the Max Cash Preferred card, but what they are is these smaller banks and credit unions have cards that are named whatever they're named, but they have the same equivalent benefits as the Cash Plus. So if you wanted to have another clone of this card, you could get one of those cards from those smaller banks, and that would still count as a different card. So you could, double up on that quarterly limit or use more categories for the same combined limit. One of those things, sort of things. And yes, so there's that. That's one version. The second actually is the Venmo credit card. And so the Venmo credit card is interesting because it does have a 3% cashback category, no limit, but it does include one of the categories as bills and utilities. So that does include things like electric, gas, power, water supply, disposal, utilities. So I think that is another option, although it's not better than the US Bank Cash Plus. It is another no cap option to get to cover those utilities if you wanted to try that too. Going back, it looks like we have some more things about here. Some more comments about canceling your card here. So Robert J says, yeah, my oldest card is 40 years old. Second is about 10. No way. Fair enough. So that 40-year-old card that would be something that you'd have to keep around for a long time for sure, probably to the very end. We also have Rotate saying, regarding canceling credit cards, it still remains in ages for 10 more years in your FICO Away credit. So if you cancel a 20-year-old credit card now, it will age to 30-year-old before it goes away. And yes, that's absolutely true. So I think that's a good thing to know too, and I'll probably end up canceling that card to make room for that Hilton Honors credit card ladder. Okay, so that is the question from Catch. The next question comes from They Hate Me, which is I always think it's an interesting name, but hopefully they don't hate you. Based on recent changes, do you intend to keep your Southwest Airlines card, or are you waiting to see what changes they make to the card before deciding? So I would say that I am waiting to see what they are going to become because I do have both of the top cards for Southwest currently. So earlier this year, I got both of these cards for the purpose of Companion Pass. I have since gotten Companion Pass, but now I'm left with these two cards, a Southwest Priority cards and the Southwest Performance Business card in my roster that I'll probably delete one of them or cancel one of them at their next 12-month anniversary. So what I use them now basically for is not for spending, it's for the benefits. So the Priority right now has a $75 annual travel credit, also has 7,500 anniversary points and 4 upgraded boardings, whereas the Southwest Priority or Performance Business card has the 9,000 anniversary points and 4 upgraded boardings as well. So far I've used 4 upgraded boardings on this Priority card. I still have the 4 left on the 4 upgraded boardings on the Performance Business card. Just as a clarification, there's always a question between early bird check-in and upgraded boardings, and that's going to go away soon, obviously. But for the purposes of you don't know, early bird check-in is, I would say, worse than upgraded boardings because what you do is if you purchase early bird check-in, it'll automatically check you in 36 hours before the flight, but that doesn't mean you'll get a preferred seat depending on how full the plane is. So you could buy early bird check-in and still get like B30 or something really lame because there's a full plane with a bunch of other people that had like status, or they bought business class tickets, or there's just a bunch of other early bird check-in people that checked in before you did. And so that's generally not what I advise. The upgraded boardings are actually what's really helpful because you can use them within 24 hours of the boarding process and then basically target A1 through A15. And so that is a really helpful thing to have available, if you want to be, basically in the front of the plane for sure. And you may be asking yourself, well, Stan, how do you use these upgraded boardings if you're already A-list preferred and already get, A16 through 25 boarding slots? What would you even bother putting it down to like A1 to 15? What's the point in that? Well, I don't necessarily do it that way, but there are situations where I book a flight, and what I tend to do is book the latest flight on like the Friday or whatever I'm going home from work. And then if I don't finish work late, or if I'm off early, I can go to the airport early and try to stand by for the next flight. And so when I stand by for the next flight, as you may know, A-List Preferred does have this benefit where you can board between the A and B group. But if you have changed your flight from your original flight to a standby flight, you then check in at that point, which is obviously way later than the 24 hours that other people checked in. So oftentimes you get like C20, C30 as a boarding group, which is not great. So at that point, what I do is I just use these upgraded boardings for that reason to go from like C30 to like A7 or something. And that's how I would do it. And right now, I think it's super worth it because the last time I did this, it was like, I believe it was, I want to say it was Sacramento to Las Vegas or something like that. It was one of those flights on a Friday night. And the upgraded boarding price was like $90. It was like, I cannot believe how high it's gone because it used to be like $30, maybe $40, but like $90 for upgrade boarding is like, that's insane. And of course, that's all covered by this credit card. So right like then and there, you've gotten like almost half your annual fee like taken care of because of this like extremely high upgraded boarding situation. So don't sleep on these upgraded boarding things. They can really give you a lot of value. But back to kind of what the question was. Sorry, I went on a huge tangent on Southwest. I'm waiting to see what happens with these cards, and then based on how they change the cards, which is coming in the next couple of months at some point, I'll determine if I want to keep the Southwest Performance Business or the Priority card. I will most likely keep one of these cards around if I can. I don't think I may need to, depending on how they change the card, because I do have A-list preferred. But I would imagine that they'll add things like first check bag free. They'll add like some kind of priority boarding situation. They'll probably add like 4 able to choose your seat, main cabin extra seat within like 24 hours of the booking or something like that, or 24 hours of check-in or something like that. So there'll be some of these like benefits and perks, but none of that would really be relevant to me as at least preferred. So we'll see. I'll have them for now. They're going to go up for renewal in December or January, and then we will go from there. So that's the story with Southwest. The next question is from Sean X, and so there's a little bit longer one. Hi Stan, love the contents. Just wondering, I have a big move coming up towards the end of May, and I want to use this opportunity to work on some welcome offers, which is a great time to do so. The total spend is around 5 to 10K, so the Amex business cards are out for me. So one note on that. So I think you're referring to Amex, like pay over time cards. So the Platinum Business, Gold Business, those are the higher ones at 15K and 20K MSR, or sorry, minimum spending requirement. So that's probably what you're referring to. But there's other Amex business cards that may be helpful for you. I'm currently in pop-up jail for Amex Platinum, but we'll try again in May and we'll see. I also did complete the welcome offer for Hilton Honors and Surpass thanks to the mail-in offers, so those are out for me too. I'm currently way over 524, and I'm in Chase, Amex, and Citi's ecosystems. I'll be moving to Boston region, which is a Delta and JetBlue hub, with a Chase Lounge and upcoming Amex Lounge. What are your recommendations? Sadly, I'll be traveling when this is live. Thank you, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so he's looking for the next best welcome offer card, understanding that he is in pop-up jail for Amex Platinum, and he's moving to the Boston area. So from my perspective, these are the options that I've seen. Now, just because you're in pop-up jail for the Platinum card doesn't mean you're in pop-up jail for the other Amex cards. So I would just encourage you to figure out if you'd like to try to apply for these cards as well. You said Delta is an option, so obviously the Delta Platinum Business and Reserve Business are good options. I say that because the business cards for Amex, they don't add to your personal credit, and they also don't give you a hard pull either. So the business cards are the way to go if you care about your Chase 524 status. Because you're over Chase 524, none of the cards in Chase's ecosystem is something that's open to you, likely. There are some exceptions, maybe, but for the most part, you'll probably end up being denied automatically. I would also say that the Hilton business card is an option too, because again, it's got a good welcome offer now for the next 3 days at least. So that's something to consider. So I would just look at those 3 cards as options for you. And they all have minimum spend requirements that are in the range, that are in the range that you are looking for at that 5K to 10K MSR. The Delta Gold Business is also a great card to consider too, but the issue with that is that it's the MSR is a lot smaller. It's like, I think it's 2,000 or 3,000. So that may not be worth it for your situation, but certainly a good card to consider, even just in general, because of the fact that you have you're moving to Boston. That's going to be a Delta hub. You also want to think about that too, only because, there's family language, although having said that, there's no family language on the business versions of the Delta cards. I would just say I looked at some of the Citi cards, Capital One cards, and Barclay cards. And so because of that, they have lower minimum spend requirements. So Ian says, Boston, Capital One Venture X business. It's expensive as hell here. He'll definitely spend $250,000 in a few. Yeah, Boston is really expensive. He's right. But the MSR on that card is like kind of ridiculous. It's like $30,000 or something like that. It's something very, very high. And so I don't think that's necessarily the way to go. And the amount of time to spend in it's like 3 months. So it really puts a timer on your spending. So maybe if you put like all of your moving and all of your furniture and all of this stuff, and like you go out to dinner a bunch of times and go to Encore and like cash advance and start gambling, maybe. But I would just say that, that's probably not the one to choose only because that MSR is very, very high. But again, I would recommend those particular options for you. So again, these are the kind of options that I discussed before. So you see the MSR on the business is 8,000. The MSR on the platinum business, Delta Platinum business, is 6,000, and the Delta Reserve business is 10,000. So those are all within the ranges you're looking for, and so those are options to kind of garden your credit report for Chase 524, but also get the welcome offer you need for your moving expenses. So that's an option. Okay, next question. Scott C says, I know you're a Marriott fan. How would you change the Amex Bonvoy Bevy to make it worth getting? Okay, so I'm not the biggest fan of the Bonvoy Bevy, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So the issue with the Bonvoy Bevy is that it gives you this free night certificate after spending $15,000 in a calendar year, kind of like how you do so on the Hilton Surpass card. The issue with this FNC, though, is that it has a 50K limit, which can be boosted with 15K points afterwards to make it up to 65K. Better, but not great. The Hilton FNC you get from the Surpass is uncapped. There's an exception list, but that's about it. So that's the reason why they're not equivalent. So this FNC just kind of sucks. And I get it. You can't really make an uncapped FNC for the Bevy, because then why would you get the Brilliant if you can get the FNC on the Bevy, right? And so there's one of those limits where we have a 35K at the low tier for Bonvoy cards. You have an 85K FNC for the high tier. So you have to meet somewhere in the middle. So the reason that I don't get it is because even if you can spend the 15K, there's no reason to get this cap FNC, because that FNC is really hard to use anyways. So to make this card better, and I think just this one simple thing would make this card at least a reasonable card to consider when it comes to getting it. And that is, if you were to take this FNC and instead of making a 15K spend requirement, just make it anniversary, just like everything else, I think it would make a lot more sense to get this card as part of a Marriott strategy, because that's kind of the theme they have going on. They're trying to target the Surpass card, but if your FNC is capped, like that it's not the same. It's different and it's worse. So you wouldn't want to do that, especially by spending $100 more in annual fee than the Surpass card, when the Surpass gives you a clearly much better FNC than that. So that is actually my thoughts on that. So my thought is if you change that FNC from a 15K spend FNC to an automatic anniversary, that would really change the game for this card. And so I'm going to throw that question back out to you guys, which is the second poll, is what do you guys think about the Bevy card if we were to make that change? Again, that change is if you were to go ahead and change the 15K FNC to a automatic annual FNC that's anniversary, would that be better for you? So go ahead and join the poll here. Go to menti.com and enter this 8-digit code or scan the QR code. I'm going to move this back over to the stage here. And so would you apply for the Bonvoy Bevy if it had that anniversary free night certificate? And so we'll start the polling here in 3, 2, 1, and go. And we'll also put this on the banner here in case you want to. Would you still get it or would you not get it? And that's going to be kind of the questions here. Do you think the Bevy card is worth it? Is it worth your time? Is it worth a Amex credit card slot, even if it had an anniversary free night certificate? Is that something you would think you'd want to do? Yes or no? It looks like there's a lot more people saying no, and so that's great, because clearly the Bevy is not a good card for many reasons. For me, I think what they're trying to do also is, you look at the multipliers, they target the everyday spending categories, but as we all know, Bonvoy points are not equivalent to like Hilton points or anything else. They're not really worth a lot, especially with a lot of the devaluations happening with the Marriott program. So it looks like, for the most part, everyone says that even if it had an anniversary FNA, the Bevy card is still dead in the water. I'm interested to know what makes you think that the Bevy card sucks so badly. I know it's still the 50K FNC. What's the big problem with it? Like, if you were to talk to the Marriott MX team, be like, this is what you need to do to make this card not suck so bad, what would you say to them? So Dollarman says, if the FNC was to be a 50K, it might be worth it, but not at 35K. Well, the FNC is 50K. Not $50, but 50K points. Josh Ng says $250 for a 50K FNA feels wrong. Not going to lie. It doesn't seem like gold status doesn't add much. That's true. $250 is a lot. So they would. So I guess one of the thoughts is maybe they should change the annual fee down to something more reasonable, because again, if you're comparing the Surpass to this card, the Surpass is going to win like with flying colors. Don Kim says, for context, the points limitations of the FNC. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what everyone is kind of saying here is that really it's really the points that are the issue. And so if the points were more valuable, maybe it's an option, but because they're not, it's a problem. And also basically it's just they need to figure out a way to make their FNCs more valuable to us. I think that's kind of the main idea here. Okay. Happy Thomas says CERT would need to be 150K Marriott Hotel points. Costs are out of control. Yeah, I don't know if they'll do 150K. That is a lot, but I know what you mean because you look at those premium properties and like they have so much in terms of their point totals. And so that's just sort of one of those issues. Okay, so thanks for that. So we're gonna move back to our stage here and move on to the next section here, which is strategy and mindsets. So this is an interesting topic because there's a lot of great questions in this one that are a little bit longer, but definitely a great way to look at certain topics in the credit card space. So the first one comes from Matt F. And he says, hey, Stan, what are your thoughts on using a single ecosystem as your core credit card setup based on a specific redemption goal, then switching to a different ecosystem for your core setup for a different redemption goal? For example, using the Amex Trifecta as your core credit card setup when planning for a big international trip, then switching to the Chase Trifecta as your core credit card setup when planning for a few years of domestic travel, assuming the travel portal would likely be used here. Is it worth it to switch back and forth, or should your core credit card setup stay consistent and we should all just use welcome offers to get the points we need? He also mentions that he is one of my credit card consultation clients, so thank you so much for that. He said he used the consult service that I had provided earlier this year, and he just hit the points target he needed to book the first trip that we discussed together. The plan worked perfectly, and I also helped that was able to pull all the catering from his wedding last week on the Amex Gold, which is awesome. By the way, congrats on your wedding. I know we had talked about it earlier a couple months ago that you were planning for that wedding, and so that's really awesome to hear that you had a great time, and hopefully you're enjoying newlywed life. And it's awesome that the catering is on the Gold card because those 4x points goes a long way with an expense as big as that. Any on the events should book the call. So thank you for that referral, Matt. Appreciate it. Anyone wants to take their credit card strategy to the next level, I'm always here for consultations, and you can check it out on my website if that's something that interests you. But essentially his question is, there's two ways to look at things, right? There's the core setup switch, which is what I'm going to call as setup A, and there's the core setup plus welcome offers, which is the core, of course, B. So like you said before, if in A, the nice thing about A is that if you're kind of being more targeted, you're earning more points through a category spend. So you're getting the cards, getting the welcome offers, and then earning points through the spend because you're focusing on that one setup. This reminds me of the series that John R. has been doing with he does like 1 month with Amex, 1 month with Chase, 1 month with Citi. I think it's cool to see that happen and cool to see how that has turned out. But that's the system that they're describing. One of the things I would say is that it's dependent on issuer approval. So if you're building a setup based on a trifecta from one issuer, the issue is that you have to apply for each of those cards within that same issuer. And so there's all these rules that come up. For example, the Amex 1.5, the Amex 2 and 90, you have the Chase 524. You can't apply for multiple Citi cards all at once. There's like Wells Fargo, there's like a 6-month limit, just like Capital One, there's a 6-month limit. There's a lot of limits to applying for cards within a single ecosystem, which is why we'll typically jump from one ecosystem to the other so that we can make sure that we can get the cards that we need. And so that's the issue. The next issue with doing a core setup switch strategy is that once a setup is complete, what do you do with it? That's another issue because, for example, in your original question, Matt, you said you start with Amex first, get all those points, then switch to Chase. So if you had the Amex Platinum, Amex Gold, and Amex Blue Business Plus, which are the Amex Trifecta, and now you've gone to the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Freedom Flex, Chase Freedom Limited, what are you going to do with the other cards you already have? Because now you have the Platinum and the Gold. They cost, almost $1,000 a year with all their statement credits, by the way. And so what are you going to do with them? Are you going to cancel them? Are you going to keep them? What are you going to do? So it doesn't really, for me, make a lot of sense to do it that way. Now, if you went the opposite way, went to chase trifecta first, then got the Amex trifecta, I think it would make a little more sense. So that's another example in the opposite direction, the opposite like extreme. But I personally, I think that's just it's a hard way to do things. As we all know, welcome offers are the best way to get points anyways. And so that's what I would probably focus on more, is those welcome offers, which is what the second setup or second methodology is like, which is the core setup plus the welcome offers. So in this setup, you have a stable core setup that you made, and then you just basically pick welcome offers off the table as you see them come in. That I think is something that I'm more of a fan of, just because I like the stability of having a core setup. It's because it's more structured and more organized. You always have a setup to fall back on, and it's always going to be there, and it's consistent. And so that's why I've moved to this strategy myself, where I really only have the US Bank Altitude Reserve as the only annual fee card in that core setup, but every other card in that setup is a no annual fee type of card, because that way I can keep that setup and still use it accordingly when I'm not working on a welcome offer. That's really the most important thing, is that when you want to get points, the welcome offer is going to be the way to do that quickly. And so the next thing is for this setup is that the welcome offer cards are also very expendable, right? And so if, for example, I wanted to get like the Barclay card, AA Aviator Red card, for the miles, that's a great card to have, but I don't necessarily need to keep it after the first year, because I have already a core setup that I'm using for spending anyways. So once that card goes away, or once a card gets that 12-month period without elapsed, I can go ahead and cancel that card with not any issues with my core credit card setup. And so you can keep doing that for each welcome card you have. If you want to keep it, turn it into a bench card, like turn it into a no annual fee card, that's something you can do too. But there's a lot more, I think, flexibility by doing the core setup plus the welcome offers, as opposed to the core setup switch setup. So that's what my personal preference is. So I don't want to say I'm biased, but I'm a little biased. But I'm sure there are certain situations where that core setup switch actually can be helpful too. And so because of that, I want to know from you guys, this last poll of this live stream, to let me know which one of those setups do you prefer. The methodology is the core setup switch, where you get the Amex trifecta, then the Chase trifecta, then the Citi trifecta, or would you do something where you have a core setup that's stable and then just pick welcome offer cards as they come up? And so go to menti.com and go ahead and enter the code there. I'll go ahead and switch the slide to the question there, and you can see that it is, which credit card strategy do you prefer? I'm going to also log on to my thing as well. And we'll start the polling here in 3, 2, 1. And here we go. So do you prefer core setup switch, which is A, or the stable core setup, which is B? Which one of this do you prefer? And it looks like, for the most part, most people prefer kind of, they're on the same mindset as myself, where you have a stable core setup that you use for spending, and then you can just take welcome offers as you come up. There's also some people who have mentioned that the core setup switch strategy is something they prefer instead, where you focus on just one ecosystem at a time. For those people that have selected that or think that, if you have any opinions on it, leave it in the comments below, because I'm interested to hear, in what situations do you think that would be a better move? I was trying to figure that out myself, and I really couldn't figure out what would be exception, except for maybe the instance where you're starting with Chase first and then building up to American Express, and just you want to get all the cards in all the ecosystems. That may be one way to think about it. Robert J says, you biased that third question. I certainly did. I know the thing is, I don't have to be neutral. I can have one opinion or the other. But, if you've watched a lot of my content, you know that I really like the idea of a core setup, because the earnings is just a small piece of the puzzle. And it's a small piece of the puzzle. It's not as big as you think it is, because even if you get 3x, 4x, or what have you, it's not going to be as nearly as good as the welcome offers you get from getting a new card. So you might as well just do that instead for that aspect of your credit card strategy. But for your typical day-to-day earnings, it's probably better to just have these 5% cards or whatever, no annual fee cards, to just get that easy cash back or easy points, whatever your situation is. Filmo is on the house. Filmo has been operating coreless for years. Yes, you have, Filmo, and I think it's interesting because you always have a welcome offer card to hit. But I don't know, maybe one day you'll just change your mind. That's my hope, but we'll definitely have to see. But thanks for chiming in here. I have Kirby G says I have the CO Duo, Capital One Duo, thanks to Stan's recommendation. But due to welcome hours and Delta Reserve upgrade offer, I haven't actually used it that much. Well, see, there it is. So that's where you see where you have a core setup, but then you don't use it because you're just doing welcome offers. So people are like, well, why do I even have a core setup at all? Because I'm just doing welcome offers. If you are like that and you are like my bro Filmo, then you can certainly get away with no core setup. But for the rest of us, sane people here in this chat, we want to make sure that we have a core setup so that we have something to fall back on. Again, that core setup should be something of a lower annual fee. Mine is literally just the US bar, so that's $400 annual fee, but minus the $325 travel dining credit, that's really $75 effective annual fee. So it's not a big deal. Like I can live with that. But if you have like an Amex trifecta as your core setup, that's a problem because you're spending $1,000 annual fees when you're probably also getting welcome offers too. And so that is just not the best way to do it. Robert J says, it's best to have all the ecosystems, usually $95 or less. Amex is the exception, absolutely. Cesar Joel is in the house. Sorry, I'm late, Hermano. It's okay, Cesar. We covered your question earlier in the chat, so check it out back on the replay. Journey for Point says, I don't want 50 cards, so got to have a core setup. I agree. I also don't want 50 cards. Some people have 50 cards. That's totally cool for them. I just don't want to manage all of that. I think I have about 19, 20 cards now, and so that's kind of the area where I want to be in and what's manageable for me. RemGB says, core setup is the way to go. Always need that as a fallback. All depends on how strong your core setup is. Absolutely. And RemGB, we're going to go over your question, and your core setup is also just as strong as mine, if not stronger. We'll see. The YouTube experiment says, in theory, I prefer setup A, but in reality, it is B that I do. That's why I selected A. In theory, A does work if you can get all the cards you wanted, if you can downgrade them to like whatever cards you want in terms of no annual fee, if you can go in the order you want to go to, if your lifestyle matches what the credit card strategy is going up. All those things have to fall into place, and I can see it being that way, but otherwise, this is kind of where we're at. So thanks for the voting. That will end the polling for this live stream, but that's always interesting to see what you guys think about it, so I appreciate the participation. Okay, Matt F. also left a second question, which is, sorry, over here. It is a little bit longer. I'm not going to read it all out, but I will summarize it in a little bit. I just want to put this question out here because this is an example of the kinds of questions I get in my consultations, and we go through them like really line by line, and we really go and dive deep through all the different idiosyncrasies and little nuances of everything when we go through it. And this is the level of detail that's really helpful for me because I'm able to figure out exactly what's going on. But of course, I don't want to read all this out to you. So if you're watching this on the replay, definitely pause the video here and read the whole thing because it's very informative. But I will now summarize what Matt F's question is in this next slide, which is basically he plans to stay at many Hiltons for the next 3 years. So he wants to climb the Hilton credit card ladder. That's really his goal. He's saying that he spends about $1,500 per month. The numbers are a little bit fudge a little bit just to make it the math easier, but it's about the same. He spends $1,500 per month on groceries and dining and gas. He can easily meet the $15K FNC goal on the Surpass. So because of those things in mind, should he use the Amex Gold card, which he already has, to earn 72,000 MR points, which basically is the grocery dining spend he has per year, or use the Hilton Surpass card, which is 108,000 Hilton Honors points as a daily driver, given this goal, knowing that he will also get that Hilton FNC when he spends his money, all that dining grocery money, on the Hilton Surpass card. So that's the main crux of the question. And so when we take a look at both of these cards, we all know them, we all love them. That's what they look like. So in the gold card, you get 4x MRs on dining and U.S. groceries with the caps on both, but the caps don't apply because his spending is lower than that. And then you also have the Hilton Surpass card, which is the 6x on U.S. dining and U.S. groceries. So, of course, we're not talking about international, just U.S., so we're kind of good there. We also want to remember that when you have MR points, Hilton is a transfer partner from the MR system, and you can do that at a 1 to 2, or if there's a bonus going on, a 1 to 2.5 transfer. So that's how you get to the numbers that he was talking about when you get that transfer bonus. And so the question then becomes, how do you, transfer the points, and what's the equivalency when you use the dining and groceries with the gold versus the Surpass? And so this is generally how it would work out. And so if you had all the dining spend and grocery spend on the gold card, you earn 72K MRs. at a 1-to ratio, that's 144,000 Hilton Honors points. If you had a 2.5, that's 180,000 Hilton Honors points. At the same time, if you did it all on the Surpass card, you have 108,000 Hilton Honors points plus that Hilton FNC. So on the surface, it looks like the gold card would be the better value. And ultimately, depending on how you use the FNC, it would be the better value. But we're here because we want to make sure we maximize all of our FNC value so we know that we can make that better. And I want to provide an example of how you can make that better. So this is an example of a hotel I go to all the time for my FNCs. I would have to say, except for maybe one, every FNC I've ever used has been at this hotel. For staycation. So it's in Santa Monica, Southern California, great hotel, beautiful. If you haven't gone there, I highly recommend it. But basically I put this as an example because you can see on a random like weekday in June, the cost to book this hotel is $1,000 and the points to book this hotel is 105,000 points per night. It is a standard room reward. That means you can use a Hilton FNC. So just as a side note, that's about a 1 cent per point valuation when you redeem points for this room. So that's not bad for points, but it's a lot of points. But if you use an FNC for this particular room, you are actually getting 105,000 points in value from that FNC. So you don't have to spend that many points. You can just use the FNC. In that case, if you use that as your example and go back to the previous slide, you can see that your FNC is now valued at 105K Hilton Honors points. And so really, as long as you use your Hilton FNC for the right redemption, and the FNC, as you guys know, is uncapped. So there's even a higher limit to this, depending on if you can find availability at, whatever you want to go to, Bali or like the Maldives or whatever. They probably have a lot better ways to redeem this. There's an upward trajectory and there's no ceiling to the limit of your FNC. Whereas you do have ceilings when you're talking about these transferable currencies. And so I think for the purposes of the FNC question, I would say I would go and do the Surpass more than I would do the gold card. Of course, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. If you can't travel in a year, obviously you want to get the points instead because that way those points don't expire. FNCs do expire. But I want to just point out that, probably the Surpass is the way to go in this situation because that FNC is uncapped, which is why it's so powerful, which is why, like before, the Bonvoy Bevy has nothing on the Surpass card because their FNCs are capped and they're pretty much useless because what can you get for 50K FNC? Not too much. So Happy Tom says, I really like this question. Well, yeah, it's a very interesting, thought-provoking question that takes a little bit more numbers, but I'm glad we got to go through it, and that's good. Journey for Points says, on top of that, got a higher annual fee. Absolutely. Now, of course, the annual fee it's kind of not, I won't say moot point, but of course, it depends on how you use the statement credits. Like, the Surpass has that $50 per quarter Hilton credit. So you could get positive $50 in value if you stay at a Hilton once per quarter. You also have the gold card with all of its fun stuff, like its Dunkin' Donuts thing and its Resi thing and its Uber thing. And there's all, I don't even know anymore. I have stopped, I have the gold cards. I've stopped keeping track at this point, but they have a lot of statement credits that could get the value back, but depends on how you specifically use the card is kind of where we're going with that. And so I hope you guys agree. If you disagree, let me know, but I think I would go personally with the Surpass card over the gold card in that situation. Kirby asks, can you use an FNC as a part of a do 4 nights on points and get 5th night free, or would you have to make it a 6-night trip? So, yeah, the good question. That's going to go over that in a future slide, but the answer to that is, so you have to use points only. You can't use FNC and combine. So the 5th night free thing is if you purchase 4 nights with points and then you get 5th night free, you can't add on that FNC together. That's just the way it is. So unfortunately, it had to be a 6-night trip if you wanted to do it that way. Trey Genda says Aspire is another option, provides FNC automatically, and then you can spend on gold or towards another welcome offer. And I think this is a good idea. I would say that I have to do the math on this, but I'm pretty sure that the gold would be the better way to go. But the Hilton card, Aspire card, also gets you that 30K FNC too. So I don't know if spending 30K on that card would be helpful. I would say no because they're categories are not as everyday category-esque as Surpass. So I would just say in that situation, if you want to go Aspire with the FNC automatically and then the gold card for dining groceries, that would be the better way to go. I think in his question, if you I kind of skipped over a little bit, but if you read the full question, basically he is going to get the Aspire card eventually. So he's going to have both the Surpass and the Aspire card. And I'll probably have 2 Surpass cards. And so basically the recommendation, like I said before, use a Hilton Surpass card to get the FNC, 15,000, then move on. You could get it twice if you wanted to, because he's now married, so he has a player or two, or player one, depending on how you look at it. A shout out to Joe Barretto. So you have 2 Surpass cards, and then you can get 2 FNCs. That's a possibility. Like I said before, there's a drawback for FNCs. You have to book it over the phone. You can't do it online, which is one thing Marriott has over Hilton. The Marriott certificates, you can book them online, which is just convenient. But Hilton, you can't get a call. You have to, it expires in 1 year, which sucks. And then you can't combine this with the 5th night free. You have to actually use points for the 5th night free. I'd also say if you're itching for any kind of Hilton points, just keep an eye out for your personal 100% point sale on your account. That way you can buy those points for half penny each. And I did that I said in a recent video that I made. I bought the max amount for this year at $2,400 for 480,000 Hilton Honors points. So definitely something to think about if you want to go down that road. It's usually pretty easy to redeem Hilton points for more than half a penny each. But that's obviously paying money for it. So kind of up to you what you want to do with that. But there's that one. And so we have another mindset question from RemGB. Again, very detailed question. Really appreciate it. We're not going to read the whole question, but I did put it up here so that if you wanted to pause the video on the replay and read it for yourself, that would be very helpful. A lot of information here, but I'm going to summarize it as well, just so that we can get the idea of what the specific question is asking. And so his question mainly comes from this. He's targeting welcome offers, and he always has been since we've first been talking. He notices that the ink train is over. It's hard to get ink cards as it used to be easier, so that's a problem. He is in Amex pop-up jail, which is also a problem. And he also got the City Star Premier and the Rewards Plus cards, before, so those are kind of out of the picture. He mentions that he is going to become 324 in the next month, and his player 2 is 324 as well. And so he's saying, which points ecosystem should he target next? He doesn't prefer airline or hotel cards just because of the way he travels, and he doesn't like the devaluations, and so he wants to get a flexible point earning currency. And so he does detail his core setup and then also cards he has from welcome offers. And so I wanted to show that in this slide here. So on the left is his core setup, and the right is the cards he has already. And so just moving to the left first, his core setup actually is basically identical to my core setup too, as I had explained in my What's in My Wallet video for this quarter. The only difference is that his custom cash is replaced with a second PayPal debit card. That's the only difference between his and my setups, and I think it's a great setup. We both are grandfathered into the US bar and the version 1.0 of the US Bank Smartly card, and so we're still using that as our catch-all card. If they were to get rid of that US Bank Smartly card and nerf it again, I would probably move it down to a unlimited cash rewards card for the 2.625 points back, or a premium rewards card or something like that. So that's his core setup. So he has a good core setup. So he has that going on when he's not working for a welcome offer. The second side, or the right side, is cards he already has. So he has the Morgan Stanley Amex Platinum, which we also both have, the Gold card, the Star Premier, the Rewards Plus, the Sapphire Reserve, and the Venture X. And so these are all cards that have good welcome offers. So that's why I put them there and showed them there, because those aren't really available to be the next welcome offer card for him. And so it's a really interesting question and a difficult question for sure. So the main crux of the question comes from the welcome offer rules for each of the 5 issuers that have transferable currencies. And so Bilt is also one, but it's out because it doesn't have a card that has a welcome offer. So for Amex, we have the problem of a once-in-a-lifetime rule. Also, the pop-up jail is a problem. But I would just say you'd have to keep an eye out for no lifetime language offers. And I don't know how many of those you get, RemGB, but that would be something to think about, because those typically bypass pop-up jail. And so if you get one of those or can see one of those, then that would be one way to go. For Chase Bank, you have the 24-month rule for most of the welcome offer cards. Obviously 48 months for the Sapphire cards. Now, Chase is nice because they have good welcome offers, and you can repeat them every 2 years. The issue is you got to wait 2 years or 4 years for the Sapphire cards. And so that's one of the issues with that, but that would be another, I think, the next option to go. The Citibank is a little bit tougher because there's only one that's good, and you already have it, the Star Premier card. It's got that 48-month rule, so you have to wait 4 years to get another welcome offer on the Shadow Premier. And at that point, I don't know if I even cancel the card because it's hard to get approved for in the first place. So just keep it. And also, Capital One has their 48-month rule on their Venture and Venture X card, which I know you already have a Venture X. I'm pretty sure you can apply for a Venture card if you would want to, and I think they still have that elevated offer going on. So that would be one way to go to see if that would be helpful. You could also use that pre-approval tool, of course, just to see what's if that would be an option. But I would say that would be one thing to think about with Capital One. For Wells Fargo, there's not very much clarity on their welcome offer rules. There's only one that has been dictated as one card every 6 months. And so for Wells Fargo, basically, that's all we know. So I think from my perspective, Wells Fargo would be the next way to go. So just like what Robert J said, get the autograph card. I mean, it doesn't have a great welcome offer, but it has a welcome offer that's pretty good. So that would be the next step for that. And so there's what I would go for that. In terms of, Rodrigo Mendez also says, I'm pretty sure Wells Fargo also has a 524 rule. I've heard of that. I don't know if that's a data point thing or like an individual thing, or that's actually true, but I would say that would be problematic if he was over 524, but he's not going to be. He's going to be 324 in May. So there's that too. RemGB is actually also in the house. Thanks for being here so we can talk to you directly. Thanks, Dan, for responding to my very long question. Much appreciated. Love your channel. If anything I'm saying makes sense or doesn't make sense, just let me know while I'm talking about it, and then we can also kind of hone in on kind of what would be the best card for you. New Again says Barclay has a loose 624 rule and no second card in 6 months. And Barclay would be great because of that reason, but they don't have any transferable currencies, which is what RemGB is looking for. So that's definitely an option. And we're going to get into that in a moment. Robert J says, I've heard 624 for Wells Fargo. So there's another thing about that. So having said all this, with all this in mind, the issue is that I would say RemGB is more in this end game situation, kind of like myself. So, it's going to vary from person to person, but essentially what an end game is that you've basically created a core credit card setup for yourself, like on the left side. And then you've also started to create this other setup on the right side, which is more like secondary cards or bench cards where you just use them for benefits or for welcome offers, and you don't really necessarily need them, but you just have them because you use their benefits. And so now it's like if you want more welcome offers, you're in the situation where you need to go ahead and continue figuring out where to go. And so we should ask the expert, which is Filmo, who's been getting welcome offers every single time I talk to him. He has no core credit card setup. So there's definitely a way to do this where you can get welcome offers continuously. But as soon as you get to a certain point, at least with transferable currencies, you have to get into these smaller banks and credit unions because now you're locked out from the offers with major banks. The only thing that's the difference is that if you have an Amex no lifetime language offer, that's something to take advantage of. And also just keep an eye on your Chase cards and your 24-month rules on all those cards. Of course, 48-month rule for the Sapphire cards. Those are the two issuers that you can continue to get welcome offers for over time as things go forward. Even with that once lifetime rule from Amex because of that pop-up jail situation, the no lifetime language offer typically can bypass both of those things. So that is my answer for your question, MGB. If you have any question about that, just let me know or leave a comment or a comment down in the chat. The next question is from Kirby G. And so Kirby asks, when booking something, how often do you compare the cent per point value of something versus the number of points it costs to actually take something? I'm personally okay with getting a lower cent per point if I'm using less points. I took a round-trip flight to Europe, including repositioning flights, for 60K points. I went at a down time, so I didn't get a great value cent per point-wise, but the amount of points and the simplicity of booking of the flights altogether from my home airport made more sense than hunting CPP. I could have gotten a higher CPP booking a different way, but it would have been more points. Yeah, so I personally don't actually ever do that. The reason why is because I redeem points for the trip that I want to take. So I never really look at the total number of points or the CPP and compare the two. I see what you're saying, and I think that what you're doing is fine. I think it's a great way to save points especially if you're trying to save as many points as possible from as many trips as you possibly can take. That would be totally fine because again, like you said, the price of the flights are going to fluctuate depending on the time that you go. And so that's really one of the drawbacks of using CPP is that the flight prices aren't fixed, they're variable. And so depending on when you go, you may have a high CPP or a low cent per point value. And so your way of doing it, I think, is the better way to go if you're trying to maximize the number of points. But for me, my primary comparison is always going to be the cash value versus the point values when I'm taking the actual trip, because I wanted to make sure that I'm not like redeeming my MR points for like 0.8 cents per point, right? I'm just looking to make sure that I'm getting as good as I can a cent per point that's reasonable. But if it's reasonable in my eyes, then I would do it. A good example of this would be the honeymoon trip I took last November, where I spent probably a lot more points than I should have. But the idea is that I don't travel like that often. And so because of that, I just wanted to, have the convenience of having a confirmed flight, a flight that I knew that I was going to take, one of the best products. It's one of those things where I want to take I want to have that experience. And so I used my points in the way I wanted to do so. And I think with your question, you're using the points the way you want to do so. I think that's totally fine. And I think that the way you're doing it is you're saving a lot of points, and that's definitely what we're all looking for. So that is my comment on that particular question. Okay, so I'm going to briefly just go back to me and talk to RemGB here. Thanks, Stan. Wells Fargo was a good idea for me to pursue in the near term. Okay, great. So let us know how those Wells Fargo applications go, and that will open you up to a new transferable currency. Josh Ing says, I saw a Hicks property, I don't know what that is, that has a 9 cent per point value. The only problem was that each night was about 50K points. Ooh, 50K. A little bit high. But again, I don't know what that is, so I'm not sure which point system we're talking about. But yes, it really depends on the strategy you're looking for. Either you're doing a lot of high-level, first-class, very expensive, very, very great experience level of points versus you're doing that too, but for less points so you can really save as many as you can. John says, how easy or hard is it to build business credit from scratch? It is. I don't really know the answer to that because I haven't really looked into it, but I would say it's pretty easy to get a business credit card. And so there's definitely a lot of content on that to figure that out. And if you sell anything or do any kind of service, that would be a business and you'd qualify for a business card. Kirby G's in the house. He actually is here for his question, which is great. I have low spend, so hard to get points, and I tend to travel internationally every November, which seems to give me great prices and some great value. Great. So if you're lower spend, you're already winning because that's the goal with all of us should be lower spending. So you want to get the points for the spend you make. And so if you are in that situation, then I think what you're doing is absolutely fine. Just use the point number as your metric of what redemptions you want to make. And so that's what I would say. Marble Jarl 39 says, hey Stan, what hotel credit card is worth opening in terms of bonus and status you get from them with a low annual fee? I'm currently looking at World of Hyatt from Chase, but I'm over 524. So I would say that if you're looking for that, my favorite card is a Surpass card right now because of its current welcome offer of earning an FNC plus the 130K points for a very low min spend of $3,000. It is open until 3 days from now. I think it closes on the 29th. So if you want to apply for that card, go ahead and do that real quick before the application closes. But that would be what I would recommend at that point is the Hilton. The Hyatt card, there's plus and minus. I would say I would always use an Ink card, Ink preferred for Hyatt stays, but that's just me. But it also depends on what kind of hotel you're staying at. Because you don't stay at Hilton's, then obviously Surpass is not going to be right for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to this presentation because we have a couple more questions left, not too many. Patrick P. says, if my goal is to get the CSR, what are your thoughts about signing up for the CSP for the 100K bonus, which is going on right now, and then product change to the CSR after the year is up? Or should I wait for a possible CSR elevated offer? And so what we're referring to is this CSP 100K offer, and it's really funny to me because some people have to be like, I love this card. It's got a 100K offer and earns 3x on dining, and this is the card, but I can't say what it is. Like, this is the offer. Like, we all knows the offer. I'll just say the offer. I understand why you have to say it that way, but this is the offer. It's the CSP 100K offer. Basically, what you can do is, I don't think there's going to be a way for the Sapphire Reserve to have an elevated offer because I haven't seen it before. I've only seen the CSP have that 100K offer. And so basically, you can get this card first, get that offer, and then 1 year later, product change to the CSR. I know, and I heard this from RemGB, and he actually recommended this, and I think it's definitely a strategy. If you already have a Chase Freedom card, you can get the CSP 100K offer first. So apply for that card to get the offer, and then you can product change your Freedom card to a Chase Sapphire Reserve card and have both cards. I know they say you can't have both cards, but they just mean that in the sense that you can't have both welcome offers at the same time. So that would be a way for you to both get the 100K offer to the CSP as well as get a Chase Sapphire Reserve to use if that's something you want. You may not want that because it's a $550 annual fee card. It's pretty expensive. So that's something to consider. So there's that. Of course, for the CSR product change, you must have a credit limit of about probably $10,000. And so make sure to have that on your Freedom card before you request the product change. But that would be what I would do if I were you, if I want a CSR, but I also wanted a good welcome offer on a Chase card. That's how I would do it. Next question is from Christian. Hello, I appreciate all the info you give out. I'm fairly new to the credit card game, and I was curious to know what would be the best setup for domestic travel. Is there a specific hotel cards that are better domestically than abroad? I do multiple small trips a year in the States, but I only see myself visiting another country maybe once every 1 to 2 years. So you're an occasional traveler. So which credit card system would be best for you? And I think the easiest answer to that would be Chase. I like Chase because, again, we talked about their welcome offer going on now, which is really good. You can go ahead and get that card if you'd like. It's got a 25% redemption bonus through Chase Travel with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is still very good for domestic travel. It's not like the best, but it's a great way for you to get integrated into the introduction of flexible point currencies and transferable currencies. And if you eventually wanted to product change to the Sapphire Reserve, you could to get that 50% redemption bonus through Chase Travel. Now, this is the one that actually is the best for domestic travel for most people, because if you have, for example, a family, you can't really do a lot of transferable stuff because the points are too high. But by doing it this way, you can get a pretty good redemption on your domestic travel, and you can still use your UR points in a really nice way. So I would say that would be the way I would recommend you doing this if you were just starting out. The next question is from John N. John says, here's my question. How do I apply and get approved for a Capital One Venture X credit card? I have not applied for a new card in the past 6 months, with my last card being a Chase business card in September 2024. So your guess is as good as mine, John. I would say that to apply, just go on the website and apply. If you want to be nice, use a referral link from somebody. But I don't really know how you would or would not get approved for the Venture X card because it's really a mystery to everybody. Basically, I know they have a pre-approval tool. Now, this is not a guaranteed thing, but what this does do is that you can see if you're pre-approved for the Venture X, and then if you are pre-approved, they'll be like, here's your offer, and you can accept it or not, and then you can accept it, and then you can get the card that way. I've heard of data points where they've done the pre-approval tool, and they have not been pre-approved, but then they applied outright and they were approved. And so it really is there's really no right or wrong answer to this. Just go ahead and when you feel ready, apply for the card. If your last card was 6 months ago, then that's good already because Capital One likes to have some space between applications. So that's what I would say for that particular question. Rodrigo M., who was in the house earlier, said, these days it seems like almost every week a major devaluation happens or some amazing program goes dynamic. Long gone are the days of award charts. Do you think the credit card game as a whole will ever devalue to a point or devaluate to a point where earning points and miles is just not the best way to get epic value for travel anymore? So it's a very interesting question, and we've seen this over the past year or so where things just keep getting worse and worse, just so much devaluation going on, and I can see exactly what you're saying about that. This is what my opinion on that topic is. Credit card rewards are a race to the bottom. The reason why I say that is because if banks could give you a piece of cardboard that gives you 1x points and everything and get away with it, they would. They would just give you a debit card and get away with it if they could. The reason why they want to give you rewards is they want you to use their credit cards for your purchases. They want to get the transaction fee. They want to get the possibility where you go into debt and not pay your balance. So then you have to pay them interest. So they really are here not as your friend necessarily. They want to extract money from you, but our goal is to extract money from them. So it really is a race to the bottom. They would really not want to give you nice things if they couldn't, but they have to because of competition. Because if they don't give you something as incentive to use their product, you'll never use their product because some other bank will give you a incentive that's better. So they compete against each other to figure out what can we offer each person to give them the incentive to spend on my card and to get value from my card. And so they offer these points and miles, and they're trying to test the waters now to see how low they can go. That, and also inflation's every year getting higher and higher, and so there's also a devaluation because what was a certain dollar like 20 years ago is not a dollar is today. Same thing for points too. There's going to be some devaluation from the inflationary problem. So that's another reason why that, I think it's a race to the bottom. So fortunately, there's a lot of innovation on lots of credit card side. A lot of fintechs are innovating. There is still a lot of competition between the major banks. And so because of that, we're able to capitalize and take advantage of these really nice welcome offers that they still get. And those point totals, by the way, still continue to get higher. They continue to increase. So even though the points are being devalued, the points that you earn from these welcome offers are increasing. We're not seeing very many multiplier increases except for the Smartly card, but that was a cashback card. That's a separate story. But I would just say that, this is kind of where we're at. So having that in mind, I want to kind of talk about what I think have been the most innovative credit cards since 2020 that have really changed the game as we have moved forward. And so in credit cards, for the ones that I look at, the Custom Cash was a really nice one because it established the 5% cashback card that was not a rotating category card. I think that was the first one that could do that. The Custom Cash Rewards card was always there, but because it had that asset limit, like not everyone could do that. But this is the first card that was able to, you could use that just as an individual card with no asset limit, which is really, really nice. So that was a game-changing card. The second card was the Capital One Venture X card, where they showed people where you could actually have a premium card for less than $400 in annual fees. That was something that was the opposite direction with Chase American Express, but that was why it was such a game-changing card at that time, was because not only was it one of those luxury travel cards for a lower annual fee, it also was a catch-all card, so you could use it every day as a daily driver too. So that was a unique way you have the card. That's why it's still very popular today too. The next card that was really innovative, I'd say, was the Bilt card for many reasons. Of course, it was much better before when it had a lot more benefits that were nice for us as credit card enthusiasts. But again, I think Bilt is still innovating. I have to commend them for that. They still continue to add transfer partners. They have a lot of interesting ways to earn points. They're adding mortgages to credit cards. They've used rent as one of those categories where they can really, give us a lot of value from the rent purchases we make. Now, having said that, they do lose Wells Fargo $10 million a month, so there's that part of it too. But at least for us, it's fine. We're getting the value from this card, so that is still in the category, in my opinion, of an innovative credit card. And then lastly, we have the U.S. Bank Smartly card. Now, we all know this card. This card came out like less than 6 months ago, and it was groundbreaking because it gave you 4% cash back on everything. We have since learned that clearly that's a bad idea for the bank because it loses them a lot of money. But it was a still innovative credit card idea at the time. I think, unfortunately, it's going to show other banks that type of benefit or category spend is not going to be a winning proposition for them. So, unfortunately, this may be the last time we see a 4% catch-all card for anything. But at least I can put it into this slide as an innovative credit card. I would say that there's some runner-ups like the Autograph card or the PR Elite cards. They were nice cards, and they're new, but they weren't like game-changing. They were, they just took a certain aspect of an existing card and just did it a little differently. And when I say innovative, obviously, I mean it's for us, not for the bank. Just like for the Bilt card that's losing Wells Fargo money, U.S. Bank Smartly lost U.S. Bank money. These are good for us, but not for them. But I'm glad that they're trying. Avenger says U.S. borrows innovative. It was innovative, but that was before 2020, so that I didn't count that card in this particular list. Yeah, exactly. U.S. borrow was released in 2017. So yeah, I completely agree. U.S. borrow was game changing, but again, that was before 2020. I just want to make sure that this here. So you again actually says, here's where I disagree. Credit card perks are not improving. Yes, there are more, but rather they are flattening out and becoming uniform. Yeah, I think so. I mean, they are. I'm not saying that the perks are improving. I'm just saying that the welcome offer number, the number of points are improving. Certainly, they are all becoming uniform, and they're all going to like these devals, and they're doing a dynamic pricing. So we just have to keep up with the market and figure out like what banks are doing and keep ahead of them. Although it's hard because like they have all the research and finance and money and stuff. So there's that part of it too. Let's see. So that's my answer for that question. So moving on, we have one last section with mostly Bank of America stuff. And so we'll start with this question here. Josh Ng asks, thought experiment, what bank do you think is best set up to compete with Bank of America preferred rewards? What could that bank's loyalty program look like? And then on that note, why do most banks not really bother with more thorough loyalty programs? B of A is the only bank that has a good one. Citi has one that isn't that competitive. They're not terrible. And U.S. Bank Smartly, that kind of went out. Every other bank is a fancy tier, but that's assuming they have any tiers to begin with. Yeah. So good question. So from my perspective, I think Wells Fargo has the most opportunity to create a tier system for their cards. Because the reason why I say that is if you look at Bank of America's system, you can create a core credit card setup with just their cards and be happy with it. Of course, there's no transferable currencies. It's mostly cash back, but you can create their own setup with their cards. Wells Fargo can do the same thing. They can create their own setup with targeting most of the major categories. And they could create a tier system on the cashback side. I would say, though, if they were to do that, they may have to require like a buy-in situation where you like, instead of, if you want to be a part of this tier system, instead of having a no annual fee card, you have to pay like, $49 a year or something like that. That's kind of what I would think about, because if you do that with these no annual fee cards, it wouldn't make any financial sense for the bank for them to do that. The problem with the tier system is that because Bank of America has a tier system, they don't have transfer partners. To do the tier system and the transfer partners is hard because you don't want to, I'm sure the banks don't want to elevate the transfer partners at the same time as elevating the tiers too. So they could do it for like maybe just like a cashback situation where like, okay, we'll give you tiers, but only if you redeem for cashback. So that would be one option, but that would be, of course, defeating the point of the whole tier system. So again, when you have transferable currencies, it's very difficult to figure out how they would implement it. But I would say that that's how I would imagine them to do that. And so banks probably don't have those great credit card related loyalty programs because it loses them more money than it makes them money. And I think Bank of America has found like that, not too much, not too little, but just right? That's what they've found. Like US Bank kind of went overboard on the consumer side, which was great for us, but bad for them. And so other banks like Chase are like, here's your 1.5 card. You're like, well, that's kind of dumb, but okay, fine. And so like they're kind of underdoing it. And so I think Bank of America has found that like perfect middle ground for them that works for them. And I think other banks just need to figure out for them what would work for them to get another tier system. And maybe they just don't even want it because it just loses them more money, like I said before. All right. Josh Ng says, thanks for answering my question. No problem, my friend. We have one more question coming up, and it's credit card adjacent, but not actually credit cards. Can you compare the Fidelity versus Merrill Edge fee structure? Curious if there is an opportunity cost to using Merrill for the Platinum Honors Preferred Rewards at 100K. And that's by Asmond4. So, as we all know, when you do Platinum Honors or some other tier in Bank of America, you want to do the Preferred Rewards program with a brokerage typically. Their savings accounts suck. Their checking accounts also suck in terms of APY, so you never want to use those. You want to use the brokerage. The reason why the brokerage works well is because you could invest in similar ETFs and stocks as you would have done if you were using a brokerage somewhere else. And so that money would still count for your asset requirement, but you're not losing anything out of it because you would have put the money somewhere else anyways. And so that's the reason why. But the question is, what kind of fees come with that account? And so there really isn't that many fees. actually pretty good. Merrill Edge has unlimited $0 online stock and ETF trades with no trader balance minimums. That's really, really helpful. So any stock and ETF that you can think of is going to be available. That's not true. Sorry about that. It's zero, but some ETFs are not available, and you'll know that when you try to type it in and they're like, we can't find it. That's because they don't offer it. But for the most part, most of the very general, very well-known ETFs are going to be available, like, VTI, VOO, like IJR, all these ones that you think of as index funds. Those are going to be really helpful ones to think about. You also get, just like Fidelity, you have $0 per trade for options. Now, I don't do any calls or puts. That's like not my play. But if you want to do calls or puts, you could in this Edge account. It's just if you were to do something a little more advanced like that, and I call it advanced because it's advanced for me, I would just do that in like another brokerage like Fidelity or Vanguard or Schwab or Robinhood or something like that. One of those brokerages that are more accustomed to calls and puts. I don't know if I would do calls and puts on like Merrill Edge. I would probably just use this account as a buy and hold account, and just like kind of leave the money alone. I would say that for Merrill Edge, mutual funds are terrible because there's always a fee with them. So there are some load weight funds and some no load, no transaction fee funds, but I don't know what those are, and I don't know where to find them. And so basically for me, I just avoid mutual funds entirely in Merrill Edge. I just use ETFs, and that's been fine for me for my time with them. Fidelity, similar again, just a little bit more flexible. The mutual fund side is nice because they have a lot of options. The Fidelity mutual funds obviously have no transaction fees either, so those are helpful to use in Fidelity's situation. And they have $0 ETFs and stock trades as usual. They also have the same kind of what's it called, a contract fee for options trading. So calls and puts will have the 65-cent contract situation. So basically, looking from both of them, for Merrill, I'd only buy stocks and ETFs with them. I would avoid mutual funds, and they're great. This is a great thing for passive investing. So if you max out your 401k, you max out your Roth IRA, you max out all the other retirement vehicles, now it's time to go to the brokerage. This is a great place to put it because that way you can not only put money into for investing for retirement, but you can also use that money as assets to qualify you for those credit card boost levels for preferred rewards. So gold tier, platinum honors tier. So it almost incentivizes you to save money so you can get those elevated credit card boosts. So you get the extra cash back when you do your everyday spending. For Fidelity, I would say it got less fees. There's more securities offered. Again, mutual funds are fine because Fidelity has a wide range of mutual funds that are owned by Fidelity that you could do for no transactions, and they're usually pretty good. A lot of them have no or low expense ratios, so that's great. So if you want a better investing experience, I would use Fidelity, but I would just mainly use the Merrill Edge system for buy and hold. So I think that ends the slide deck. Thank you so much for getting through it. There's actually so many questions, and I really enjoyed all of them, so thank you for leaving them. Sometimes I have to put a cap on it because I just want to make sure we have enough time. We have just made it to 2-hour mark, so if there's any other last-minute questions, I'll save for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll call it a day. I know that as compared to last week, there's only my live stream today. I think Anthony's doing one later on today as well. So I just want to make sure that you guys get your live stream action in while you're here at the end of this show. I don't see any more questions, so maybe we'll just kind of call it a day. New Again says, once again, top shelf content stand. Have a weekend. Thank you so much, New Again. I appreciate your commentary to everyone. I know you read all of my comments because you reply on individual comments in the sections of my videos and leave a lot of good information for the users and the commenters that are there. So really, I appreciate you doing that because you have a lot of good knowledge about credit cards and really help me because I can't always get to those replies in time. And so I definitely appreciate that. Chen says, I have PayPal debit, Wells Fargo autograph, and active cash. Highest spend is dining and groceries. What else should I add to my wallet? Was thinking CFF to get a 5% option. I think that's fine. You have a nice setup right now where it's all Wells Fargo based. PayPal debit is good. I would say if you want to add another 5% option, Citi Custom Cash is a better option than Freedom Flex because Freedom Flex is only a rotating category card. You can't make a core setup with that. So I would say either second PayPal debit if you have availability of a player or two, or Citi Custom Cash would be the next way to go for that. Soul NB says, I currently use the credit cards for dining, but find myself hitting the cap often. Would you recommend the Autograph card or Freedom Flex as supplemental card? CC, Custom Cash, sorry. I would say use the PayPal debit card. That'll get you to $1,000. That should be kind of enough for you, I hope. If that's not enough, I would say the Saver card is another good option because it's got no cap. And I think it'd probably be a better dining card than the Autograph card, although they're both okay. But first PayPal debit card, then I would go Saver and then Autograph card. That'd be the three I would do. Leon Dre says, thanks, Sam. Thank you, Leon. Thanks for being here. I know you're here at the beginning and you're here at the end, so I appreciate you listening all the way through. That's awesome. The Hand and History Vault, thoughts on Citi devaluing their transfer rates? Well, it's just kind of an unfortunate thing. Citi can do what they want because they're the bank. They're the issuer. They can do it. So we just have to deal with it, and it sucks. But Citi is just being Citi, as we all know. Suba MF. I have no cards with Amex. Will Amex approve me for the Hilton Biz as my first card with them? I don't know. They may or may not. They'll let you know when you submit your application. I would say that if you want a Hilton card, I would go for the Surpass card or the Hilton Honors card, regular card first. The thing is, when you apply for a personal card first, you have it. Every subsequent card after that, both personal and business, should be a soft pull. But if you apply for a business card first, you get a hard pull, but then you would still get a hard pull for any other card. The business card does not give you that same benefit. So your first Amex card, in my opinion, should always be a personal card. So looking for Hilton, I would go for the Hilton Surpass card or the Hilton Honors card. Tio says thanks. Chia says thanks. Okay, perfect. Chen says thanks. Let's see. I have a few more questions, and so we'll just cover those and call it a day. At 424, Jake Boudet says he's there until next spring. Would you recommend the Hawaiian card or Red Aviator? Should I add a Chase Business like IHG or United Business first? It depends on what you're gonna use the most. If you wanted to add the business card first, I would do that first to get that card in first. I would say if you wanted to get AA miles versus Alaska miles, that's going to be the way you determine if you want the Barclay card, Aviator Red card versus Hawaiian card. And so just make that decision. But yes, I would go business card first. Chumbay says, hello, Mr. Stan, big fan of the channel. Enjoy watching the videos. What's the best credit card for RBNB? I don't know what RBNB is. I have to look it up later. So if you can clarify, just let me know. Nathan says, I'm torn between CSP and CSR. The CSR and Ritz-Carlton, which I have a lot of overlapping benefits. Makes you want the CSP, but the CSR gives you higher point earnings. Which do you recommend? So the CSR gives you higher point earnings in travel. That's like all it does, right? I guess if you use the Chase Travel Portal, then it does give you more in like the Chase Travel situation. But I would say if you want to get like a 3X travel card, the Inc. Preferred is a good option for that. I would say the CSP Ritz-Carlton is a very common combination. The only reason why I'd keep a CSR is, number one, you use the 10x multiplier on the Chase Travel Portal, and if you use a 50% redemption boost on that card to redeem your UR points for domestic travel or whatever. That's the two reasons I would say to keep it. Otherwise, I would recommend doing CSP, CSR, especially if you are 48 months out and you can get the CSP for that 100K offer, because that would be fantastic. All right. Ed Fain says, which card offers Priority Pass with restaurants? I would say the Bank of America Premium Rewards Elite credit card is the only one I know for sure that gives you unlimited access to that. You also have the US Bar that gives you the 8 restaurant access, the 8 Priority Pass restaurant access, but it's obviously not available anymore, so you can't get that. So it's just that card. I know there's a HSBC card that could do that too, but I'm not sure what the name of that card is. So those are the 3 that I have in my mind for Priority Pass restaurant access. All right. So we're going to call that a day there. Thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday now afternoon here in Southern California. Again, this is going to be my last live stream for a little bit just because I'm going to be busy in May, but I will try to continue to release videos every week. I am getting a little bit busier with work and with travel and with life in general, so I'm going to do my best. But I appreciate all the questions you guys asked. Hope you enjoyed this live stream. And, of course, I'll catch you guys in the next one. So take care, guys. Have a good weekend.